all the devas, brahmas, spirits, demons and the dead to join us. It is now our opportunity to repay debts that we owe them. In an infinitely long journey in samsara, in which we can see no beginning, we have come past many infinite number of births, and in each one of them have associated ourselves with beings of all kinds, forms, shapes and so forth. And such beings may no longer be with us today. They may be our ancestors who have predeceased us, as well as beings in other forms such as deities and demons and spirits. It is now our opportunity to invite them, to give them the gift of Dhamma, which excels all gifts. It is our opportunity to repay any debts that we owe them, bearing in mind that in this infinitely long journey in samsara, they may have helped us, assisted us, supported us in lots of ways and shapes and forms. They will most definitely have been our mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, relations, friends, associates and so on and so forth. Those who have always been by our side, come to our help when we needed it. So, this is now our opportunity to repay those debts. Let us invite all those beings to join us. May they witness this meritorious deed and rejoice in these merits. If any of them have today been born in the woeful plains, may through the power of these merits, may through the grace of these merits, they be able to redeem themselves from those woeful plains and be born in the blissful plains. And all beings in the blissful plains, may they be able to listen to this Dhamma, understand it, comprehend it, and be able to attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. So, with that hope, resolve, determination in mind, as I now make this invitation, I request you all to extend that invitation in your heart. To forgive us. Let us all take a moment to seek that forgiveness from the noble ones. And finally, let us all make a firm resolve Let us all make a firm resolve that may through the course of this sermon, if there are any gaps in your understanding, in your knowledge, in your comprehension, which are keeping you from achieving the noble attainments of Sotapanna and the subsequent stages, may through the course of this sermon, you be able to hear those points of Dhamma which will unlock those barriers. May you be able to comprehend this teaching, this philosophy, the Buddha's doctrine, and may through the course of this sermon you be able to attain the state of Sotapanna. And for those among you who have already attained that state, may you be able to fulfill the subsequent stages and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. So with that firm hope, resolve and determination in mind, I invite you to prepare yourselves to listen to this sermon. Okay. For some people, all that stuff that we say at the beginning of a sermon, that's a lot of preamble. Blah, 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 just get on with it already. Some people do feel like that. Perhaps, well, no, you don't feel like that, do you? But there's a reason that we contemplate on this stuff. It is no good starting off without paying homage to the Supremely Enlightened One. Because unless we are humble enough to accept that we need a teacher, you are not a student. There's the old adage, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. So when the student is not ready, the teacher does not appear. To be a student, you have to be humble. To be a student, you have to accept that, well, frankly, I know nothing. I'm here to learn. I'm here with open ears, with an open mind. I'm just a blank sheet. Give me all you got. That is the mentality with which we should always listen to a sermon. It does not matter who sat on this seat. Whether it's a senior monk or a novice monk, it really shouldn't matter. In fact, it shouldn't even matter whether it's a clergy or a lay person. Because what you're here to receive is not who I am. What you're here to receive is the Dhamma. There is nothing so rare, that's the Dhamma. Nothing, absolutely nothing. Saddhammo paramadullabho, says the Buddha. The Saddhamma is that which is most rare. Even being born human is not that rare. It's not that rare. In fact, the advent of a Buddha is not that rare. We have been blessed with a Buddha. But how many of you actually received the Dhamma until quite late into your lives? For some of you. So there was a Buddha. That much was all good and well, but didn't receive the Dhamma. 30 odd years of my life went past by. I didn't receive the Dhamma. I learnt about the Buddha. I learnt about the Buddha, but not about what he taught. I didn't know what he was here to do. I didn't know his purpose. And following on from that, I didn't know what my purpose was. Having been born human, having come into this world. You see, unless you receive the Dhamma, nothing else really matters. Having been born human does not matter until you receive the Dhamma, does it? It amounts to nothing really. Because this is just another stop on this railway track. This is just another stop. How many times have we all been born humans before? Innumerable times. So it didn't matter any of those times having been born human because we did not receive the one thing that was most rare. What was that? Absolutely. If you don't receive the Dhamma, then there is simply no point in being born human. It can actually act against you. This is like a person, a madman armed with weapons. All these 10 fingers you have in both hands? Oh boy. Deadly weapons. Yes or no? Well, you know the answer. Deadly weapons. Every weapon that man built was using what? These 10 fingers. So these are the most deadly weapons. Every crime committed, these are your weapons. Every man killed, every young boy, girl abused, it was always these 10 weapons. You got 10 of them. So a blessing, right, to a human being to have been born with all digits in both hands. Not until you receive the Dhamma. Until then, this is a madman armed with weapons. And a madman is an insane man. Knows nothing about what I'm here to do, what my purpose is, how I use this gift that I've got. So do you see how if you don't have the gift of Dhamma, then having been born human amounts to nothing, counts to nothing, simply nothing. You're probably better off having been born a cow if you don't receive the Dhamma. What unmeritorious deeds does a cow commit? A four-legged animal like a cow? Which of the 10 unmeritorious deeds does a cow commit? Does it kill another being? Does it steal? Does it engage in sexual misconduct? How about lying? Backstabbing? Frivolous speech? You might as well have been born a cow if not for the gift of Dhamma. Because usually what happens is that is your next stop if you don't have the gift of Dhamma. Then we have the advent of the Buddha. There are all sorts of sects and traditions nowadays. People following Buddhism. Hell, Buddhism has become an industry. It's become a franchise. You can start your own business selling Buddhism nowadays. You just come up with some kind of flavor or come up with a new flavor. As long as you have something to do with Buddhism, maybe create an idol, paint it whatever color you like, however big or small. You have laughing Buddhas, right? Franchises. You can make money out of Buddhism, can you not? Go on eBay once in a while and just type in relics of the Buddha. And you thought they were so rare, didn't you? Plentiful. Go on eBay and type relics of the great elder Sariputta. Oh, there's lots of it on there. And some of them come with free shipping as well. Buddhism has become a business. It has become an enterprise. All because no Dhamma. Even coming across the Buddha is pretty serious stuff if you don't receive the Dhamma. Once the Buddha takes a strand of hair, he drops it into the ocean. He dips it into the ocean, and having picked it back up, he says, "Monks, when I was a bodhisattva and I was fulfilling the perfections in the hope to become a Buddha and give salvation to all sentient beings, my ambition was to do exactly that and not stop one short. I wanted to help everyone cross the ocean of samsara. That was my hope, that was my ambition. That is why I became the Buddha. Had I not felt like that about one being, I would not have been able to become a Buddha. If the Buddha did not have the compassion in his heart to save you, madam, to save you, Buddha, to save you, madam, and you, sir, individually, he would not have become the Buddha. That is the length and breadth of his compassion. That is what is required to become a Buddha. So he dips this strand of hair into the ocean and he says, although that is what I thought I was going to be able to accomplish, monks, do you see the amount of water that I am able to pick up? The amount of water that I am able to draw out of the ocean with this one single strand of hair? Yes, Venerable Sir. That is the amount of people. That is the number of beings in relation to all the water in this vast ocean that I am able to give salvation to in my era as a Supreme Buddha. Does that not send a shiver down your spine? That is all he is really able to accomplish. His ambition was otherwise. He wanted to save us all. Every single ant, every single fly, every single mosquito, every being, not leaving anyone out. Every single being, every sentient being he wanted to save. But only after having become the Buddha he realizes that is not a feat I am capable of. The reason for that being, not everyone takes the Dhamma. I have it to give, but not everyone's prepared to take it. Not everyone wants to be a student, but everyone loves to be a teacher. Everyone likes to say their piece, but doesn't like to. Hardly anyone really likes to listen these days. Everyone wants to say their part. I'm here to talk, so listen, will you? People like to talk a lot. People like to say their part, but very few have the patience, have the discipline to listen. I'm not talking about you, otherwise you wouldn't be here. But this may be who you used to be. There may be people in society you come across who are like this. Don't despair. Because you may be trying to save your friends, your relations, your cousins, your brothers, your sisters, your parents. It's much like you, I'm trying myself to do what I can for my relations when I was a lay person. But I have come to learn that it is no point despairing about it. Because if the Buddha couldn't, how can a mere pesky being like me be able to do something like that? You can only try. And again, the reason for that is people don't like to be a student. All people want is really, get me water, not how do I get to the water. Get me water. They're not looking for a teacher. People are looking for servants, maids. Get me water. Shall I teach you how to get to the water? No, I'm not interested in that. I just haven't got the time for that. Get me water. So we end up not taking the horse to the water, bringing the water to the horse. And once the horse has drunk up the water that we've given it, it's looking, where do I find more water? Well, the teacher's gone now. But if you become a good student, then the teacher will appear. That is just a law. That's just how the universe works. Do you know why we received a Buddha in our time? And why your grandparents didn't get this Dhamma? That's because you are ready, and they weren't. You became ready. You prepared yourself through samsara. You practiced virtue. You practiced giving. You practiced patience. You practiced these things. You practiced to become a good student. And this is why today you receive this teaching. So this is why we pay homage to the Buddha. Understanding fully well that we have to be prepared to be a good student. Putting all ego to a side. Not get rid of it, because that's not something you're able to do until you become an arahant. At least put it to a side. That's why we worship the Buddha. Then you observe the precepts, but just prior to that, you take homage in the Buddha, Dhamma and the Sangha. Once you have come to the understanding that there is nothing else in this universe that can really give me any salvation, there is nothing else that can show me the path to true happiness, there is nobody else, no one else you're going to seek refuge in. Until you come to that understanding, you will go elsewhere looking for refuge. You may go do Bodhi Puja, looking for refuge. Not that there's anything wrong with doing a Bodhi Puja for the right purpose. If you are doing it in the hope that you may be able to attain Nibbana, well, that's not directly going to be very helpful. It'll help you create the environment for it, but it's not going to be the answer to your problem. Others go to other gods, supreme gods. Almighty One, I need help. Save me from samsara. To which the gods will answer back, how can I help you when I am helpless myself? You can walk up to Jesus Christ and ask Him, oh Jesus, help me. I'm stuck in samsara. I'm in despair. I'm desolate. Please help me. To which Jesus Christ will only have one answer back. I can show you how to go to the heavens. I can show you how to be with God. But what you're asking me, I have no understanding of. You want a state where there is no being at all? Sorry, I don't get that. That's a concept that is foreign to me, so I can't help you there. Keep trying. Then you'll go to Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva, I need your help. I'm informed that you are the most powerful of all gods. You are the creator, so I'm informed. Please help me. I realize I'm going through this cycle of rebirth, and that brings me suffering every single time I go through this process. Please help me. To which Lord Shiva's response will be, what you're asking me, frankly, I don't know. I have no understanding of how to help you there. I can show you how to perhaps be one with me. I can show you how to join me in my regime. Come and join me in my kingdom. But what you're asking me, where you want to stop birth, I don't have the answer to that. I can't help you there. So, sorry. Keep trying. You may go to the great Allah, and you might ask Him, oh great God, please help me. I'm stuck in samsara. I don't want to go chasing happiness. I want happiness to come to me. Help me. And the God is going to have to say, Allah is going to have to say, sorry, can't help you there. What you're asking for, I don't know, I don't have it. I can show you how to be with me, but that is as far as I can help you. So, keep trying. So you're going to go around the houses, knocking on people's doors. Help me, I'm stuck in samsara. This is what we've been doing. Until one fine day, you come across, not the Buddha, but the Buddha's teaching. Once the Buddha, having attained Buddhahood, he was going somewhere, and he met this Brahmin who was walking about, who actually later on ordained in his ministry. This Brahmin asked the Buddha, who are you? So he sees someone who's looking quite strange, looking odd, not the usual kind of person. Who are you? You look quite interesting. Who are you? And he says, by looking at your bodily characteristics, you look like a victorious one. Are you Jinnah? Jinnah, victorious one. Are you a victorious one? Because even in his time, there were contemporaries, so other religious followers in his time who were all looking for salvation. So everyone, it was a time where people were starting to think. People were starting to explore. Because, people were affluent. They had money. They had property. So they were well off. Much like you are. So we are seeing a repeat of, what we used to see back then. So people start asking these questions during that time. We need to find something more than this. This rat race of a life, earning, spending, living, earning, spending, living, earning, spending, living, where's the end to this? There must be something else we can do, something else we can achieve. So people were going about trying to find an answer to this question. So therefore, when they met somebody who looked quite interesting, who looked different, they would ask the question, are you someone who's found it? So that was where this question came from. Are you Jinnah? Are you the victorious one? To which the Buddha's response was, I am Ananta Jinnah. I am the infinitely victorious one. There is no one more victorious than I am. I am the infinitely victorious one. And this Brahman's response was, okay, if you say so. and he walked past him. He just walked past him. Who's he walking past? The Supreme Buddha. Cheerio. Later on, the same person meets the Buddha on another occasion, because then he was ready. Because then the student was ready and the teacher appeared. On the first encounter, the student was not ready. So there was the Buddha, but he was not ready to teach. Because that person did not need a teacher. He wasn't in need of a teacher. He wasn't looking for a teacher. He just wanted to make conversation. So one day, when you get to listen to the teaching of the Buddha, when you begin to understand anicca, dukkha and anatta, which today I will talk to you about, because as I promised last week, go back to the basics. When you begin to get a glimpse of what his teaching is, yo dhammam passati, so mam passati. There is only one way you can actually see the Buddha. This is not the Buddha's image that you see with your eyes. It is who the Buddha is, not what the Buddha is. If you ask me what is the Buddha, there's an idol of him. That is what he used to look like. Maybe, so they say. I mean, that's the best I can give you, because I can't remember. Surely I must have been an animal of some sort around his time. This is why I'm here today. Maybe a dog who was at Jetavanarama, Senasuna, that time. This is why now I'm like a dog at his feet, having understood who he really is. But those days I must have been a dog on all fours. Luckily. Today my perfections have helped me to be born a human being. But once you get a glimpse into his teaching, that's when you begin to realize who the Buddha really is. It's like if you go to a tuition master, right? First you go because someone says he's a good teacher. You must all have had this experience. Or maybe a teacher at school. You go to a new class, new school, okay, take up a new lesson, new tuition master. You go by recommendation. Someone says, hey, that's a good teacher. Okay, I'll go try it out. Put a teacher to the side. What about a restaurant? Isn't that how you experience it? First someone says it's a good place to eat. Then you go try it out. But this is by trust. You have trust, but it doesn't become conviction. While it's still trust, people can change your view. People can influence you. They can change your opinion. One day someone says, that's a good restaurant. Go try it out. So now today you are preparing to go there, and another friend comes along and says, where are you going? To that new fancy restaurant downtown. And they say, oh, no. Bad idea. Do not go there. Now they've just been able to influence you. Okay, why so? Not good. Oh, thank God I met you. So you can be influenced either way, constantly, until you actually go to that place. Try it out. Now you have conviction, shraddha. Then your faith cannot be shaken after that point. Even if everyone else in this world, every man and his dog comes to you and says, the Buddha, don't waste your time. You're going to say in return, you're wasting your time. Trying to tell me, don't waste my time with the Buddha. You're just wasting your time. Because it's just not going to happen. I have become a student of the Buddha, and there's nothing you can say that can change my opinion, that can change my view, that can change my belief, because I have seen him. Now I know who he is, because I have seen his teaching. And once you have seen his teaching, now your life becomes a vehicle to get to the supreme bliss that he speaks of. It is really from that point forward you begin to understand the value of human life. I tell you, and take for what I say it is, you don't really understand the value of human life until you have understood the Buddha's teaching. you really don't understand the value of human life. You may say, I'm a human being. We learn such stuff at school, right? Human beings are very valuable. Human life is very precious, so they say. But until you have understood the Buddha's teaching, you don't really understand the value of human life. It is then true value begins to surface. It is only then you really understand how difficult it was to have become a human, how difficult it was to have become a human in the time the Buddha's teaching is around. And for these two events to coincide, what the probability is, when all that starts to make sense, that's when you realize, good heavens, there is nothing else that is more precious to me than this very human life that I have been blessed with. You will understand it then. Do you remember I used to tell you, before I listened to the Dhamma, I used to like doing good things to help other people. Not that that has changed much, but my motives are now different. Back then, if I used to see an old granny trying to cross the street, I used to go and help her. And sometimes I used to stand on the side of oncoming traffic to avoid her being hit in the event that a vehicle comes past. But after I began to understand the Dhamma and then began to realize the value of human life, now I take cover from her. I let her stand in the face of oncoming traffic. I still help the lady. I mean, come on, you've got to give me credit for that. Don't take it all away. I still help her, but I keep her guard. Am I wrong to do that? I realize how difficult it was to have come into this world as a human being, to have listened to that Dhamma, something I never got to listen. In this infinite long journey in samsara, I'm not ready to sacrifice that for anybody or for anything. I'll still help the lady. So once you understand the teaching, then you begin to understand what is it now I should do to get there. That is why you say Buddhaṃ saranam gacchāmi, Dhammaṃ saranam gacchāmi, Sanghaṃ saranam gacchāmi. We've discussed about this previously. But like as I promised you, I'm going to take you back to the basics, remind you of some of the fundamental stuff without which you can't build the high castle of nirvana. You need all this fundamental stuff, really important stuff. Really, really important. I can't emphasize it enough. Because I know you all lead busy lives. As much as I say, go back and listen to old sermons, previous sermons, I know a lot of you don't have the time for that. Because you have busy lives to lead, so I can't fault you for that. But the only thing I have to say is, give excuses that you can also use when it's time. You can't give any excuses. When death comes knocking on your door, if you can give excuses then, it's okay to give excuses now. Whatever excuses you want to give then, you're free to use them now as well. I don't have time. I'm too busy. I'm the president of the country. I'm a father of 3 children. I'm a busy wife. I'm the president of the club. I'm the secretary who's got to keep on top of all these affairs. I'm a consultant psychiatrist. I'm the best heart surgeon there is, so I'm pretty busy. Right? Whatever excuse you want to give, it's okay. Just make sure you have those excuses ready when Mara comes knocking on your door. Because then, there's only going to be one paper, and there are only going to be 3 questions. How much raga? How much dvesha? How much moha do you have left? Unfortunately, there's not a box beneath them asking you what are your extenuating circumstances. There just isn't a box for that. So all these excuses you can keep thinking about now, but I don't think they're going to help you then. The only reason I'm saying these things is to make you realize you have to be earnest. We have no time to waste, ladies and gentlemen. Seriously, we just don't have time to waste. You could be young, you could be middle-aged, you could be elderly. You have no idea when Mara's going to come knocking on your door, because it doesn't come with warning. It doesn't come with warning. Sometimes you might have a sick person at home and everyone thinks, oh, he's going to go next. That's what you think. This is like the lottery. You don't know what's coming next. You don't know which number gets picked next. It's random. To us it's random. It's not really random. There is method to the madness, but it's not method that you and I can comprehend. This is our karma shakti, the karma that we've done, right? So we all have limited karma ayusha when we come into this world as a human being. It's limited. No one lives infinitely. And at every moment you're alive, you continue accruing karma. So once the karma has expired, the karmic energy that brought you into this world as a human being has expired, it doesn't matter what age you are now. Now it's time to go. Because it may be your karma bhava. Your karma bhava was 1,000 years. So you are good to be born a human for 1,000 years. But much of that time you spend as a gandhabba, floating around waiting for a mother to conceive. Much of that time you spend like that, really. Of the time that we have as a human, the karmic energy to be born human, most of that time really we just spend walking around, going, like gypsies, trying to find a mother. And then one fine day, we are conceived. And you come into this world, but little do you know that you have already expired 950 of the 1,000 as a gandhabba. So little do you know you only have 50 years left. You spend 950 years as a human gandhabba. That's just like a preta floating around, waiting for an opportunity to conceive in a mother's womb. Because although you have done enough merit to have been born as a human gandhabba, you just haven't done enough merit to find a mother and a father to come into this world with a physical body. This is all karma. Stuff that you don't see with your bare eyes, and therefore stuff that you are not willing to accept. Stuff that you are ready to just discard as rubbish, nonsense. Until you enter samma ditthi. We have to be very careful, particularly people like ourselves, people like you. I put myself into that category. Growing up in a very materialistic age where everything has a value, right? Everything has a price, right, these days? Everything has a price. Then life's purpose becomes earning as much money as you can, because if everything has a price, then all you need to do is acquire the resources to acquire it whenever you need it. Then all we are interested in is materialism. That's the world I grew up in. So I sought refuge in science, in math, in all the ologies. That's where I sought my refuge in. I was very skeptical about much of all this stuff that I believe in today. And the reason I believe in them now is not because I am now all of a sudden a blind believer. No, I never was one, and I never will be one. It's because through the Dhamma, all these questions have been answered. We don't need to get ahead of ourselves, but all I'm saying is, if you've got nothing to lose, if you've got nothing to lose in believing next birth, why not? Have you got anything to lose in believing in next birth? What's to lose? What's there to lose? There's nothing to lose. What if there is one? Now there's a lot to lose. Just by chance, if there is a next birth, and you haven't believed in it all this time, then you have lost a lot. Because when it's time to go there, now you can't say, oh, but I didn't know. Well, tough. You didn't ask me before you decided to believe it or not. Tough. So if you're a skeptic, that's okay. But just don't be what they call a permanent skeptic. Niyata mitya drishtika. A permanent skeptic is one who's not even willing to budge. I'm not even willing to consider a next birth, or a previous birth, or that there are pretas, or that there's a hell. I'm not even willing to accept. I'm not even willing to consider. Just talk to the hand. Some people are like that. Start talking to me about hell, I'll go blah, blah, blah. Shut up already. Some people are like that. Because once that wall comes up, now there's nothing you can do to talk to them, at least to get them to sit down and start to talk sense into them. They're not even willing to consider that. But after you see the Dhamma, you're going to see all of this. Paticca can explain everything. Because the hells are a conditioned thing, right? Sankata. And the process that spews out all conditioned things is the Paticca process, dependent origination process. But once you've seen the Paticca, you're a Sotapanna. Once you really get an understanding of it, you're a Sotapanna. Once you're a Sotapanna, it really doesn't matter whether you believe in hell or heaven. Keep heaven to a side. It doesn't matter whether you believe in hell or not, because it's not something that's going to affect you from that point forward. Those who need to know don't want to know. Those who know don't need to know. That's how the world works. I'll repeat. Those who need to know don't want to know. Those who know, they really don't need to know. How much does the Buddha need to know about Paticca? How much does he need to know about it? How much does an Arahant need to know about Paticca? About Anicca Dukkha Anatta? No, he doesn't need to know anything about it. Why? He's accomplished what he needs to. But he's the one who knows. But what he knows, he doesn't need to know anymore. But everyone else, they need to know, but they just don't want to know. Oh, what a pity. Why? This is because that's how the world has been founded. All these systems that are in operation in the world are there to keep the world going, to keep the world turning on its axis. This is how people have to be, so that the world continues to operate. Because one fine day, if everyone becomes a Sotapanna, what happens then? That is going to be the end of everything. So there is no reason for that to happen. So then we go on to invite the Devas, Brahmas, spirits, demons and the dead, our ancestors who have predeceased us. Because these are people, these are beings that we owe a lot to. Beings who we have come past in samsara. As I sometimes remind you, our mother in our previous birth might have saved you from committing an unmeritorious deed, as a result of which today you have been born into the blissful plane as a human being. But alas, she saved you from that. But today she is in the hells, because she did it on your behalf. Have you not committed unmeritorious deeds on behalf of your children? How many times have you squashed mosquitoes, flies, cockroaches? You don't think twice, right? As a parent, particularly. You don't think twice, because for your child you're willing to do everything. Until you become a Sotapanna. After that, you're not willing to sacrifice your salvation, or a trip back to the great hells on behalf of anybody else, because no one's going to save you then. At that point you begin to understand that all of these are samsaric deaths. Yes, they are my children in this birth, I have duties and responsibilities towards them, but I'm not going to commit unmeritorious deeds on their behalf, because who's going to have to suffer the consequences? Who? Yourself. It's not worth it. It simply isn't worth it. Let me ask you a question. The Buddha's walking on arms, going on his arms round. You see Angulimala, brazen with a sword, running towards the Buddha. Who here wants to go and stop that from... You're convinced that Angulimala is going to kill the Buddha. You're convinced. Who here wants to go and get involved and stop that from happening? Or kill Angulimala before he kills the Buddha? I'm not. I'm not ready for that. Because if that is a samsaric transaction that is about to happen, I might stand aside and say, stop that. You don't realize what you're just about to do, but I'm not going to get involved as far as actually picking up the sword myself, picking up a weapon myself, and stab Angulimala before he stabs the Buddha. That much I'm not prepared to do. I will not kill on anybody's behalf. I will not steal on anybody's behalf. I will not engage in sensual misconduct on anybody's behalf. I will not lie on anybody's behalf. I will not backstab on anybody's behalf. I am not prepared to do that. Because if I do that, I have to suffer the consequences. And I am not prepared to suffer the consequences. I am not prepared to sacrifice my nirvana. I am not. Fortunately, I don't have children. So I don't have a limit, I don't have a line which, when crossed, sometimes you feel I have no choice. Fortunately, I don't have that line. This invisible line. At that point, I might have to consider I don't have that line to cross. So I'm lucky in that sense. But you have to be careful. So try and make sure that you don't find yourself in that situation. And the best way to do that, as I keep relentlessly telling you, reminding you every time, give your children the gift of Dhamma. Because when you do so, chances are they're not going to find themselves in those situations where you have to get involved. You have to intervene to stop them and to stop them falling into danger by causing danger or harm or damage to somebody else. 90% of that is going to stop if you give them the gift of Dhamma. Things like cockroaches and snakes and things like that, well, there's not really much you can do. But again, that's also the result of karma, bad karma. Why does a snake bite you? Because you gave it dana in the previous birth? No, because you did something similar to that poor animal. So again, that birth, you didn't have the Dhamma. That's why. When there is no Dhamma, there's no insurance plan for you. But when you have the Dhamma, Dhammang have rakkati Dhammachari. One who practices the Dhamma is protected by the Dhamma itself. Then you don't need a mother or a father to protect you. In many ways. So, we have a duty and a responsibility to transfer merits to them, as well as invite them to join us and rejoice in the merits that we are about to acquire. A sermon like this, remember, this sermon, as well as all other sermons that are being conducted throughout the world, this can only happen in this 10,000 world systems, and not any world beyond that. Because beyond these 10,000 world systems, they didn't receive a Buddha. No one beyond these 10,000 world systems was able to listen to the Buddha. A Buddha comes into the Jambudvipa, and his dispensation is valid, lasts, or his proclamation is, his purview is to 100,000 world systems. 100,000 world systems. But in that 100,000 world systems, it only reaches as far as 10,000 world systems. Lots of big numbers. Yes, you just need to know you're lucky to be here. That's all you need to know. You're so lucky to be here. But I am sometimes giving you these numbers just to put into context for you just a little bit, to help you realize how lucky you are, and why we do the things that we do. And it's not just a bit of preamble that we go through at the start of a sermon, not just because it's nice to say something before we start. You're only here for 2.5 hours. Every moment you spend here is very precious, to you as much as to me, because this is my turn to pay my debts to you. How many times will you have been my mothers and fathers in this sansara? Ever since I ordained, you have become my mothers and fathers, because you feed me, you clothe me, you give me shelter, you give me medicines. But how many times have you been my biological mother and father? So this is my only opportunity to repay my debts to you. So every hour, every minute, every second you spend here is very precious to me. I just hope it's as precious to you. This is why I don't like it when you start nodding off, when you start falling asleep, because you're taking away my opportunity to repay my debt to you. You're stealing from me my opportunity to repay my debts to you. If the only way to repay debts to your parents is by giving them the gift of Dhamma, and even by keeping them on either shoulder, you feed them, you dress them, you clothe them, you clean them up for 100 years and you still haven't repaid debt. This is whose words? The Buddha's. The only way to repay your debt is by giving them the gift of Dhamma. Well, I'm asking you, give me that opportunity. Don't steal it from me. This is why I say, even when you come to meditation programs, as I have seen some of your faces starting to appear, which is great. Well done. Keep doing it. If you feel like you're beginning to doze off, just put some water on your face, stand up, walk around, do whatever the hell you need to do to just keep awake. Otherwise, you're wasting precious life. How much can you pay to get back the time you spend here? How much money? It's gone forever. It's gone forever. So we have debts to pay, not just in this birth, but also in previous births. And some of those beings who we will have come past, being our mothers, fathers, right? They have no other salvation now, because they can't listen to the Dhamma. Sometimes they can't understand the Dhamma. Even if they can listen, they can't understand the Dhamma because they don't have the wisdom that is required to understand the Dhamma. You need the faculty of wisdom, prajna indriya. You need to be endowed with the prajna indriya, the faculty of wisdom, in order to be able to understand the Dhamma. So there are lots of beings out there who just simply don't have it. They don't have the capacity to understand the Dhamma. So to them, the only thing that we can do to help them is pass them merits, transfer merits to them, and maybe invite them here so that they can witness this meritorious deed. They can look at you. When I invite the devas, spirits, demons, I'm talking about your relations as well as mine. I'm talking about yours. So you have to. This is something you have to do actively. This is not a passive process. You have to actively, in your mind. This is why I say, in your minds and in your hearts, extend that invitation out in your minds and in your hearts to all your relations in your past births. You don't have to know them by name. Of course, you're not going to know them by name. But just the thought is enough, because although you don't know them by name, they'll know you. Even if not by name, they will know that you are the only person from whom they can actually acquire merit. So they are waiting for that opportunity. They are waiting for a chance. They are waiting for you to confer those merits. And some of these beings, they will keep troubling you. If you're the only person from whom they can actually acquire merit, and if that's the only chance that they have to redeem themselves from being a preta and come back into a human life or as a deva, if you're the only chance they have, They're not going to let you be at peace. A lot of people come to the monastery talking about issues and troubles that they have, sometimes falling asleep, sometimes just living a normal life. Some people are obsessed or possessed even by beings who have been their mothers, fathers, grandparents, either in previous births or in this birth, because that's where they were attached to. Once you're attached to something, death does not necessarily sever those bonds. You'll keep coming back. Like if you're still attached to human life, if you're attached to being a human, if you have enough merit, you'll keep coming back and being born as a human. So those pretas, they don't have enough merit to be born a human, but nevertheless they're still attached to you because you were their son, you were their daughter, you were their husband or wife. It was you that they were most strongly attached to in their last moments. So they pass away, be born as a preta. And now, those bonds have not been severed, certainly not to them, so they just keep coming back to you. And then they'll start troubling you. They may, not always, but may. They may start troubling you. Particularly when you are now determined to attain Nibbana. Because you have debts which are yet to be repaid. Some of them will be saying, you took my land, which was not yours. I did not write it to you, but you took it. That was unjust. That was not rightfully yours, and yet you took it. Now give it back. And they'll keep coming after you for that. You didn't give them the gift of Dhamma. They weren't fortunate enough to receive the gift of Dhamma. So their attachments still remain even after death. And they now keep coming back after you. Asking for it. Seeking it. Well, now, of course, there's no point in giving a preta a bit of land, because what can a preta do in a bit with land? So the only thing you can do is really transfer merits to them. This is why we do Dolaspirikara Puja at the monastery. And there are other places that do it just as well. With the Dolaspirikara Puja, if any one of you have ever taken part, gotten involved in one of them, you know that before the event, we invite you to come to the monastery. And we talk you through what is the significance of doing this? Why is it that there is no other way to actually repay those debts now, because it's too late for them? So we talk you through this stuff. So you have a good understanding of it, because first you have to come to Sammaditthi. At least worldly Sammaditthi, Laukika Sammaditthi. Because if your belief is, no, there is no life after death, there are no pretas, all of that is rubbish, then there's no point in you doing a Dolaspirika. Because in your mind, you're not transferring the merits to them. So they haven't got a chance to access it. You have to give. Then they can take. They can't take by force. You have to give. So when we give the gift of Dhamma, this is a great opportunity to invite them to witness this deed. Invite them to see you sitting down, listening to the Dhamma. And that can only also work if, when they were a human, at least in some way, shape or form, they got involved in some kind of offering or worship in the Buddha or something like that. If they were beings where, they were completely against Buddhist practices, rituals and things like that, and they were fiercely against things like that, it may be that actually they're better off where they are, not inviting them to be here. When you invite them, they're probably not going to come anyway. But for them, well, there's nothing you can do to help. See, there's so much out there. If we think all that is real is all that we can see with our plain two eyes, then we are sadly mistaken. You know very well that maybe at least every year you give a dana and you offer merits, you transfer merits to your parents, right? Do you do that? Normally people do that. If I were able to convince you, if I were able to prove to you that your parents are in the Divya Lokas, are in the heavens, in Paranimitta Vasavarti, or maybe having been born a Brahma, you will then know that they have more merit than you have, won't you? Otherwise, why would you be here and they be there? Someone comes knocking on your door. Excuse me, sir, can you give me some money? You study them head to toe. They've just gotten out of their Mercedes Benz, full suit, black tie, whatever, right, with a suitcase in hand, the latest mobile phone, and they say, can I have some money please? What are you probably going to say? Don't ask me. If you have some spare, give me before you go. But a poor man in rags comes and asks you for money. Now you are prepared to give because you realize that this person could do with some help from me, because they probably have less than I do. And that's when you're willing to give. Not talking about charity for the purpose of, you don't give it to the Sangha because they have less than you have. That's not the reason you give to this Mahasangha. It is out of respect. But any other occasion, you give because they have, usually it's because they have less than you have. So if that is the case, then when you transfer merits to your relations, is it because they have more than you have? Or is it because they probably have less than you have? So you're on the bottom step of the blissful plane as a human. So for them to have less than you have, they have to be in one of the great healths. And not all beings in the hells can actually accept merit. Only certain types of pretas can accept merit. So this is why when you do a Dolaspirikara, you acknowledge that throughout this journey in samsara there are lots of beings I have been indebted to, and it is now my opportunity to repay those debts. So may they join us, may they witness this meritorious deed, may they accept these merits, and may through the power of these merits they be able to redeem themselves from those woeful planes and be born into the blissful planes, either as a human or a deva. And then once they've gotten there, now they can come and listen to the Dhamma, because until then they don't have the faculty of wisdom, without which no amount of Dhamma can save you. So this is why we invite the Devas. And then we go on to seek forgiveness from the noble ones for any speech or any words or thoughts of actions of desecration and abuse that we might have directed towards them. Really, really important, this. Because again, remember, these are not just words. I have plenty of stuff to tell you to fill an entire day's worth. So I'm not just filling up time with this preamble before we start. This is really important stuff. This is why I reminded you today, sometimes doing anything else, you have no problem. The moment you start to listen to a sermon, start falling asleep. Some people are like that. Watching TV, no problem. Playing on the computer, no problem. Reading the newspaper, no problem. Listen to music, no problem. Sermon, sleep. Meditation, sleep. You can't blame them for that. Because what is blameworthy has already been done. What was blameworthy has already been committed. And that was the abuse. 9 times out of 10, abusing noble ones. Using harsh words to the noble ones. Might have been a Buddha, might have been the Dhamma, might have been the Sangha. Someone might have perhaps once said, hey, there's a really good sermon, I think you should come and listen to it. Instead of just keeping shut, because you were clever, you said, to hell with this Dhamma, man. Stupid Dhamma. What Dhamma are you talking about? You keep your Dhamma. I don't want your Dhamma. I might as well sleep. You spoke too soon. You said, I might as well sleep. So what are you doing now? Sleeping. Abuse. Slander. Desecration. Really, really, really dangerous stuff. If you don't know what you're messing with, just don't mess with it. If you don't want it, just stand back and say, no, thank you. Be respectful nevertheless. Someone comes and offers something to you. Hey, I've got a really good book I think you should read. There are two ways you can respond. One is, hey, you keep your stupid book, man. I don't want it. Chances are they're never going to ask you again, because you were disrespectful. Or the alternative is, thank you. Why don't you leave it? I'll read it when I get a chance. Or I'm not really in the mood of reading one right now. If I want it, I'll come back to you later. At least you were respectful. If you were respectful, then they'll come back to you one day. Or if you want it, maybe you are in a state in which you need the advice, you need the instruction that was in that book, and then your friend will say, you know that book I told you should read that day, I think you really should read it now. But had your response been the former, keep your book and shove it where the sun don't shine, they're probably not going to ask you again. The same goes for the Dhamma. This is why you have to be so careful in your dealings with the Buddha, Dhamma and the Sangha. Before I start my meditation, every time seek forgiveness from the Aryas, the Buddha, the Dhamma and the Sangha. In fact, I take it one step further. The Sambuddha Shasana, as well as all beings. If there's any being out there towards whom I might have said something, or at least even thought in my mind, or through action, anything that might have been slanderous, that might have been abusive, then please may they have the compassion in their hearts to forgive me for that, because I realize that such thoughts, actions and deeds were nothing other than foolish ones. Because I was a fool. I was a stupid fool. And that is why I say you have to be honest about it. This is why I say, we need to think genuinely. You have to genuinely accept this. You can't just say it, just for the namesake. That doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. It's like, you do something wrong. You go and ask your mother or father for forgiveness. I've been in that situation, right? I do something really naughty, and then mother says, without, Jan, go and ask Tati, say sorry to Tati, or Appachi. Then I go to Appachi. I really don't want to say sorry. I don't want to say sorry. I say, hey, sorry. I don't want to be there. I don't even want to say sorry. So I don't actually mean this from the bottom of my heart. I don't receive forgiveness. Because that is not a genuine sorry. That is not genuinely being regretful, remorseful about what you have done. If you're asking for forgiveness, you have to genuinely mean it. For that, you have to know deep down inside, that is not something I should have done. That was very wrong of me to do that. I was a fool to speak like that. I was an idiot to do that. I was very wrong of me. Now when you really accept that, when you really acknowledge that with humility and with humbleness, then you go and ask them, I'm sorry I did that. Even in the way someone comes and asks you for forgiveness. Have you not experienced that? Someone comes and says, hey, sorry, yeah. Do you feel that as being genuine? No. But someone comes and looks you in the eye and say, sir, madam, mister, macha, I'm really sorry I did that. I'm really sorry I said that. I really shouldn't have said that. It was wrong of me to say that. Now, wholeheartedly, you're willing to forgive them. It's not like the Buddha, Dhamma and the Sangha, they hold a grudge against you. Because the Buddha, Dhamma and the Sangha does not have the capacity to hold a grudge against you. The Buddha doesn't have the capacity to hold a grudge. He just cannot, even if he wanted to. Because he's the Buddha. Right? So they have already given their forgiveness to you. But you have to accept it. And to accept it, you have to be ready to accept it. You have to want it. You don't get what you desire. You get what you deserve. You get what you deserve, not what you desire. So when you're deserving of forgiveness, then you shall be forgiven. And this is why we ask forgiveness for our upada at the start of a sermon. And then the final bit, which is we make this firm resolve, something that we were never able to do in samsara. The one thing we were never able to do in samsara. Understand and comprehend the Dhamma. This is the root cause of all other problems. May through the course of this sermon, I be able to attain that Sotapanna state. May I be able to find the way to unshackle myself, break through the chains of lust, understand how to unprick the thorns of desire, of aversion, and move away the veil of delusion. The one thing we were never able to do in all of samsara. This is why we are still here. This is why you're sat there and I'm here preaching. The one thing we were never able to do. So it is with that firm resolve we begin the sermon. So do you see why we go through all those things to get to this point? That it's not just words, that we're not just filling up time for the sake of it. Everything we do, there's meaning behind it. Very profound meaning behind it. All this, when was the last time you went into your science class, right? And you worshipped your science teacher and asked for Arupada, to be forgiven for Arupada, and then made a firm resolve, may through the course of this science lecture I be able to understand that F equals ma. When was the last time you did that? Because you don't need to do that. To understand science, you just need intelligence. You don't need wisdom. To understand math or any of these ologies, you don't need the faculty of wisdom. You don't need the blessings of the Buddha for that. You don't need the blessings of the Aryas for that. Yes, of course, your teacher must be prepared to teach you. But that, for as long as they're able to see that you're prepared to learn, they're willing to teach you. And nowadays, they don't expect a lot anyway. A lot of teachers, they don't expect much from their students, which I think is a real shame anyway. But that's a chat for another day. I think teachers should be more expecting of their students, at least to teach them that learn to be a good student. Otherwise, all you're leaving here is with science, a degree, maths, another degree, but you're no better a person than you came here in. You're no better a person. You're more knowledgeable, but that really doesn't amount for much. But hey, that's for another day. So, even if you don't do it in a science lecture, this is why we do it in these sermons, because this is the one thing that we were never able to do in all of samsara. Shall I tell you something you may already know? You're all so very poor. You're very poor. Although you might think you're wealthy, you might think you're well-to-do, well-off, dare I say, you're all very poor compared to how wealthy you've been in previous lives in samsara. There was a time when you were a wheel-turning monarch. Sakwiti Raja. What do you have compared to when you were a wheel-turning monarch today? What do you have now? There was a time when you owned, when all the 4 human worlds were under your regime. What do you have today to your name? There were plenty of times when you were the Sakra god. When the human worlds, the Tusita, Tawa, Timsa, all of these were under your regime. What do you have today? So really, compared to who you used to be, you're also very poor. We have nothing. compared to who we used to be. Yes or no? Yes. Yes. But in another sense, you're richer than you have ever been in samsara. Because this time round, you have received the one thing that is most rare, the rarest gem, the triple gem you have received. And in that sense, you are richer, you're wealthier than you have ever been in samsara. Appamadena sampadeta. Be mindful about that. And don't be wasting of time. Because it's probably not going to be around forever. Certainly not in our lifetime. Don't waste time. So, all this because I want to emphasize to you and I want to remind you, what are we here to accomplish? All this was also preamble, but to help you realize, help you understand why it is so important that we understand anicca dukkha anatta, which is what I'm going to talk to you about now. Now it may be that some of you know this pretty well, so that's great. That's great. I genuinely mean it. It's great that you do know it. But you might pick up a thing or two along the way, and therefore, dare I ask you, don't have preconceptions. Don't hold on to your preconceptions of what they are. Everything you know, put it to a side. And listen. Although that is the most difficult thing to do. Listening. When you know something, it's so difficult to listen. Because there's going to be a voice in your mind that's going to start talking. When I start talking about anicca, you'll already be at anatta. This is the nature of, this is why we have to talk about anicca dukkha anatta. This restlessness that's inside of us. So try and contain it, and that will pay dividends if you're careful. Why do we study anicca dukkha anatta? So, you can answer questions, that's okay. Don't pretend you don't know the answers. Although in meditation programs, I ask the people who come, pretend that you don't know anything. And then I ask questions and they all start answering. So what did I just tell you? Forget everything you know, and why you started answering already. But today I'm not saying that. So you don't have to pretend you don't know anything. All I'm asking you is, whatever you do know, just put it to a side. And if I ask you a question, then please feel free to answer. So, where does it all start? Why are we even bothered about anicca dukkha anatta? Why are we done with talking about how do you lead a good life? Duties and responsibilities, do all that stuff, right? Be a good citizen. We do talk about all these things, but why is the crux of our master's teaching anicca, dukkha and anatta? Why is that the center of everything? It's because we are trying to find a solution to a problem. Right? We are trying to find a solution to a problem. We're always trying to find a solution to a problem. Life itself is a problem. Just going through life is a problem. Simple things like, what do I have for lunch tonight, today, or what do I have for dinner tonight? Even things like that are problems. So constantly we go through life trying to find solutions to our problems. What are you going to study for your O-levels and A-levels? What university are you going to go to? when you grow up. No, you're not. You're going to come to the monastery, that's why. But these are all problems. Who am I going to get married to? Right? Young children have these problems. What is your ambition? Someone asks. People get stuck. There's so many things out there that you could be doing. Which one do I choose? Right? But all of these are problems, and you're finding solutions to them. Trying to find solutions to them. The reason that people are unhappy, I'm going to give you something really profound. So, see if this makes sense to you. The reason that people find themselves unhappy is because they try to be happy. Very simply. Putting it very simply, the reason that people are so unhappy is because they're always trying to be happy. The reason that people are still not at peace is because they're still trying to find peace. The reason that people are still not free is because they're still trying to find freedom. What do we learn at school? I don't know if the irony of this strikes you, right? We have free education. Yeah? So, thankfully we have free education. We should all be grateful for that. It strikes me the irony of this. Free education that does not educate you to be free. Yes or no? It's free education, but education that never teaches you how to be free. The Buddha's doctrine is the education that teaches you how to be free. That is the real free education. So who was the founder of free education? Doctor? CWW? We are talking about something else. This is the true free education. It's free in every sense. How much do we charge you for this sermon? It's free in that sense. And it's also free in the sense that it is the real education that teaches you how to be free. Free of all problems. Therefore, you don't have to struggle to find solutions. Not teaching you how to find solutions to your problems, but teaching you how to free yourself from the problems. Therefore, you no longer have to find solutions to those problems. If you don't have a stomach, and therefore you don't feel hunger, how many meals must you eat? None. If you don't have a head, how many paracetamol tablets do you need to take for a headache? Thankfully for some people, that is the only indicator that they have a head, when they get a headache. Otherwise, sometimes the things that people do, it leaves us wondering, do you actually have a head? This is why when people bring alms to the monastery, our devoted devotees, when they bring alms to the monastery, and I sometimes get hold of the mic to say a few words, I usually remind them, today what you're expecting is hopefully that the monks have found the meal delicious, they have found it appetizing. These are some of the questions that might be burning in your hearts and in your minds. That may be the case for you, ladies and gentlemen, but for me, it is the fact that I have had to eat today as well, when I already ate yesterday. And eating today does not mean I don't have to eat tomorrow. I have to eat tomorrow as well. That is my biggest problem, not what you fed me, or not what it tasted like. The fact that I have to eat is my biggest problem. And gradually this has to become your biggest problem too. You have to become frustrated, ladies and gentlemen, that you have to eat. Not that you can't find what you want to eat. Is that the most frustrating thing still? You want to eat something and you can't find it because all the shops are shut. All the takeaways are shut, so you can't grab yourself a pizza at... What time do they shut? I don't know. 2 o'clock in the morning? 11:30? 12? Do they never shut? 8 o'clock in the night. Thank you, sir. He knows. So if a minute past 8 o'clock, you suddenly feel the urge to have a pizza, now you will become frustrated because you have a vexation deep down inside and there is no way to relieve yourself of that vexation. So you have a problem and alas, you can't find a solution to it. That is the cause for frustration. Until one day, you begin to understand the Dhamma and then you realize, I feel the urge to eat a pizza. That is the problem. One day, your problem is not going to be your vexation. Vexation is going to be your biggest problem. Every problem is a vexation, right? Until one day you realize that vexation is your biggest problem. And when you realize that, now you'll try to find a solution to that original problem. It all works the same way. First, you have to identify the problem. Then you have to identify the cause for the problem. Then you have to understand that there is a solution to the problem. And then finally, there's a path to the solution for the problem. And then you have to follow that path. This is the Buddha's teaching. The Four Noble Truths. The only difference is identifying the right problem. Until you identify the right problem, you're going to start finding solutions to the wrong problem. If hunger is your biggest problem, then you're going to start finding solutions to hunger. Let's consider that as an example, right? Hunger, problem. What's the cause for hunger? My stomach is empty. So what is the solution? Fill it with food. What's the path to filling your stomach with food? Either it's the path from the bedroom to the kitchen, or the path from the bedroom to wherever your phone is, so you can dial a takeaway, or a drive-through, right? So this is what is going to be your Four Noble Truths. You shouldn't really be calling them noble truths. These are your four truths. Your four truths. Problem, I have a problem. I need a solution. Or I have to first find the cause for the problem, then the solution, and then the path to the solution. Until you realize, actually, no, that's not the real problem. The real problem is the fact that I feel hungry. Not because my tummy is empty, but because I have a stomach in the first place. Now you have to look at a completely different dimension. It's a paradigm shift to start finding solution to that problem. Until then, you are looking for answers in the world. Worldly answers, all this. Where does Pizza Hut exist? In the world or outside of the world? It's in the world. It's laukika, not lokottara. But when you want to find a path to the solution to the original problem, now there's no point looking for it in the world, because it cannot come from the world. It has to come from outside the world. So this is what we are trying to do with the Dhamma. Trying to find a solution to the original problem of us being here. You being here right now. You having to breathe. Isn't that a problem? Having to breathe? Isn't having to be the problem? You will experience the symptoms of it if you are put into somewhere where there is low pressure, where the pressure in the air cabin starts to drop. Now becomes a problem and you really start to feel the symptoms of that. or your lungs do not inflate, or your windpipe becomes faulty, whatever the case might be. But all these problems exist because you still have the original problem, which is you still have to breathe. If you didn't have to breathe, then none of these problems are really problems to you. Do you understand so far? Yes, simple stuff. So then we have to start finding the original problem, and that is being born, being here right now. Then you have to ask the question, well, why am I here right now? Because for as long as I'm here, I have to go through old age, I have to go through sickness. Parts of my body are going to start to break, fall apart, and then I have to fix them. I have to attend to my children who go through the same ailments. I have to fend for myself. I have to earn myself a living. I have to educate myself. All of these are solutions to worldly problems. And all of these you have to do because you're here right now, because you came into this world. That is why the Buddha starts with jati. He says, find the cause for jati. And then start going backwards until you get to the root cause. With Paticcasamuppada you'll have all, come across avidya pacca, sankhara, sankhara pacca, vijnana, and so on and so forth, until it gets to bhava pacca jati, right? And then after jati, it's all downhill from there. Jati pacca, jara, marana, shoka, parideva, dukkha, domanassa. Right? All this is downhill from jati. So if you've gotten as far as jati, then it's downhill from there. So we need to find a way to not get as far as jati, which is birth. If you put it in quite simple terms, birth. If you are born, you can't help it but grow old. Why have you grown old? Because you were born. Why did you fall ill? Because you were born. Why will you die one day? Because you were born. Why do you become hungry? Why do your arms and legs and limbs break? Why does your hair start going grey? Why do your teeth start decaying? Why do you get ulcers, lung cancers, brain cancers, tumors, right? All these things, why? Born. Because you're born. Once you're born, you can't stop it. Now it's just downhill. It's like those slides in the play, what do you call them? What slide, Buddha? A water slide? I can't hear the first bit of what you're saying. Mess? What slide? Mat slide. Oh, mat slide, thank you. Sorry, I couldn't catch what you were saying. Mat slides. So once you've gone over the edge, now there's no stopping. Roller coasters, another example. If you've gone over the edge, now it's downhill from there. There's no stopping. So if you have reached that point, then there is no going back except going down. There is nothing now you can do. See, there is nothing you can do to stop growing old. You can try, but you can't stop it. There is nothing any one of you can do to stop death. You can try, but you can't stop it. You can run, but you can't hide. No matter where you go, it's going to come after you. You might want to travel to the other end of the galaxy, but it's still going to come after you. You can't stop that. You can't stop feeling hunger. One guy says, well, I could get rid of my stomach. Well, yes, your stomach was not going to feel hungry, but the rest of your body still needs nutrition. You've taken out the only way you can feed the rest of your body. So that's not an answer. If you have been born, you can't stop other people from shouting at you, insulting you, hitting you. You can't stop it from happening. Can any of you do that? But you do try to do it, don't you? You try to stop that from happening. But you can't. You try to bring your children up in the best way you can, but you can't say it always works out. Because once jati has happened, it's all downhill from there. So this is why we have to stop jati. We have to stop birth. Now when we start there, there's going to be loads of questions coming out. Well, hey, hang on. Life is fun. Why are you saying stop birth? Because birth is fun. I mean, we celebrate the arrival of a new baby. Do we not celebrate the arrival of a new baby? Yes. You throw a party, baby showers. We celebrate the arrival of a new baby, newcomer. That's because our view is completely distorted. I mean, it's fair that parents celebrate the arrival of a new child. It's fair. Why? Because they have just been relieved of vexation. That party is honestly not for the child. Tell me, do you all remember your first birthday party? Do you remember your baby shower? The celebration that they threw to everyone in town, all the relations invited? Any of you remember that? Do any of you remember that? No. Well, in that case, that party was not thrown on your behalf. That was a party for them, the parents, because they were relieved of their vexation. What if you had been born handicapped? Would they have thrown a party? You were born blind. You were born with only one arm. Tell me, who would throw a party? You were born without legs. Now where's the party? You are born with your head between your legs. Now where's the party? Well, if the party was for you, they should still have thrown the party. But now, no party. Why? Because you are not something that relieved them of their vexation. All you've done is added more vexation. So it's not a reason to celebrate. It's a reason to mourn. So they'll keep it all hush-hush. Let's not even talk about it. It becomes a sensitive topic. Don't talk to her about her new child. It's very sensitive for her. I'm not mocking anybody. I just want people to understand, right? This is how people's minds work. Because, I don't know, some of you might have been in similar situations, or maybe you know others who have. I'm not mocking people. I'm just saying this is how people work. It's not a party for the child, it's a party for the parents. When you pass an exam, of course you throw a party. When you get your driver's license, you might throw a party. When you turn 18, you throw a party. Now the party is for you because you have just been relieved of your vexation. Got my driver's license. Party. I'm 18. Now you can drink. Party. Relief from vexation. Time to celebrate. You know, it baffles me how people who don't believe in rebirth celebrate birth and mourn death. It baffles me. If you don't believe in rebirth, you should really be doing it the other way around. Because with birth, what have you just invited to yourself? Countless trouble, countless frustrations, endless agonies and pains, right? Now you have to go through education. Who here enjoyed education? Now you have to sit all the exams. Now you have to go through fights, brawls at school, right? Getting shouted at, yelled at, screamed at. Now you have to get hit by your parents. Yes? 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 She says yes. People are going to cheat on you. You have to go through all this. You have to build a whole life from scratch. You've done it plenty of times before, but none of that you carried over. It's like the end of your accounting year, but you're not carrying anything forward. You've got to start from scratch. It's like you never did the business last year. But all the heartache, all the pain of last year's work remains. But nothing carried forward. Nothing brought forward. And then, what about all the diseases that come? Again, from scratch. Measles. You had it in your last birth, but hey, you've got to go through it again. But I got shot my vaccines last birth. Oh, tough. You've got to get them again. But I treated my cancer last birth. Tough. You've got to go through it again. After death, will you have to go through any of that? If you don't believe in rebirth? After death? Any more old age? Are you going to age after death? Sickness? No, you don't even have to feed yourself. So all life's problems go away with death. So which one of these two events must you celebrate really? Death, not birth. Because after death, you don't have to go to school again. Seriously. You don't have to work again. Right? You don't have to listen to people shout at you. You don't have to get abuse from your boss. None of these things. No rowdy neighbors. None of these things. So death is what we should celebrate if you don't believe in rebirth. And birth is what we should mourn. But no, it's all the other way around. The entire world system is the other way around. Because, again, there's a reason for that. It's because once you're done and dusted, once you're gone, now the world can't make anything out of you. That's it, you're a goner. So now the world can't make anything out of you. So people say, mourn death, celebrate life, celebrate birth. Because after you've been born, now the world can make a living out of you. Starting with baby Jeremy, right? All the way through. You are an investment opportunity. Yes or no? To everyone out there, you are an investment opportunity. All they have to do is invest in you and they get their returns from you. And the reason for that is you are never satisfied. You are never satisfied, never fulfilled. Always wanting more. Always wanting something else. Something different. Something quirky. Something new. Something for a change. How many TV channels do you have? Oh no, you said you don't watch TV anymore. Good. If you don't. What was wrong with black and white TVs? No, people wanted something new. Something different. So then they brought in color televisions, and then they had one channel. What was the first channel? Was it ITN? Yeah, that's how I remember it. But again, that wasn't enough. So we need more. We need something new, something different. Change in life. Change is important, like people say. Change is good. Change we need. Why do people need change? Because they're always vexing. Always looking for another source of pleasure. And if pleasure is out there in the world, then of course you need the world to change, because you need another source of pleasure to come to you. Because the same thing, when you have it constantly, is no longer going to bring you pleasure. It's just vexation, continuously. So we really need to find the answer to the root problem, not solutions to the problems, because as you know from your own very lives, ladies and gentlemen, there is no end to this. You have never been fulfilled with life. Tell me if I'm wrong. You have never been satisfied with life. I mean, I wasn't. Until I came across the Dhamma, I didn't find satisfaction, I didn't find fulfillment in life. I just wanted every time something more, something new, something different, some change in life to happen. This is why you look for a promotion. It's not enough how much you earn. You need a bigger house, you need a bigger car. You need to travel the world. Well, what's wrong with where you live right now? No, you need to travel. I find it quite funny how people call these holiday destinations like Singapore, Malaysia, if you travel east, or you have the Middle East like Saudi Arabia, countries like that, Turkey and things like that. Then you have the West, you have Europe, right? You have all those continents which you can travel. I find it really strange why people travel to Singapore, and people in Singapore, they travel to other countries on holiday. Because if Singapore is the number one travel destination, what must people in Singapore do? They should stay there. Why do they travel? Because their home is the best holiday for them. They're already there, so why travel again? It doesn't work like that, does it? Doesn't work like that. Is that not proof enough that these things that people make out as being holiday destinations, right? Top 20 countries to visit before you die. Top 100 countries or whatever, the list people come up with. Top holiday destinations to visit before you die. All of this is just a gimmick. It's just a fallacy. People concoct these things, make up these things, fabricate these things so that they can make money out of you. So that they can make a living out of you. They can invest in you. You are simply investment opportunities. Like coconut plantations. Investment opportunity, right? Tea plantations, investment opportunity. Rubber plantations, investment opportunity. You, investment opportunity. To hell, a cow is an investment opportunity. If you invest in a cow, you can get milk out of it. Once it's dead, you can get meat out of it. A chicken is an investment opportunity. You can get eggs out of it, out of a hen. To think that people look at you the same way? This is like the human farm. Last week I talked about the production line, human production line. Simply investment opportunities, that's all people see. And you succumb yourself to that. You allow people to make you an investment opportunity for as long as you cannot be fulfilled. Ultimately, if you think about it, right? You work hard, you earn a lot of money, so you can go on holiday, so that other people can make money out of you. So why did you work hard? So other people could get that money out of you. You're the one who's working hard. Someone else is getting your return. You're okay with that? How many countries do you think I'm going to be going on holiday to? I used to. I was not satisfied. I wanted to go all around the world. That's why we got ourselves British passports, so we could travel the world. They don't ask you for a visa. You just have to enter, gate, passport, okay, in you go. This is why we got them. For nothing else, really. This is why we got them. Only later realized what was the point of all of that. I simply put myself through all that pain so someone else could benefit out of it. So, for as long as we don't treat the root problem, we are just another chicken in this farm. We're just another cow in this farm. We're just another human in this human farm. You want to make a documentation? Come and talk to me later. A documentary? Human farm? People think human farming is where people's bodies are being harmed for organs and things like that, right? I think there's talk about that. There's a bigger human farm than that, if you just think about it. And we're all just cattle in it. You see how we were never taught to think about these things? No one ever gets you to think about these things. No one wants you to think about these things. That's why. Because once you start thinking about these things, you're going to question the meaning of existence. You're going to question, why am I even here? You're going to start answering some tough questions that people don't like to answer. You're going to start challenging the things that your elders said to you. You're going to start asking, why go through the education system if all I'm going through is another human farming? If that's all that I'm going through, then what's the point? That's not me saying you shouldn't have an education. That's me saying, question, why? What is your purpose of your existence here? Of course, while you're in a lay life, you have to go through education because you have no choice. I mean, even our young monks, we teach them a few things so that they can survive in this world. Because once we are here, we have to play the game. So we teach that, go through that. Because it's essential. Not because it's conducive to Nibbana, it's because, well, you're in this human farm. It's just that we've been quarantined. They don't like us anymore. Because we have taken ourselves out of this investment opportunity to the world. So we have to find the cause to the root problem and then find a solution. And so the reason that we are being born is because we find this world pleasurable. This is why we keep coming back. For as long as we can find pleasure in this world, we're going to keep coming back to it. How do you get rid of ants in the kitchen? How many liters of Baygon is going to keep ants away from the kitchen? For as long as you keep something sweet open in your cupboard, they're going to keep coming back, aren't they? Yes? Yes. So you can use ant repellent, but they're going to keep coming back. For as long as there's food to eat, for as long as there's pleasure to be had, they're going to keep coming back. And much the same like that, you and I, we keep coming back for as long as we find pleasure in this world. So how do we experience this pleasure? It is through our senses. Through our eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and our body. This is how we experience pleasure. These are our inputs. But ultimately, it's our mind that experiences pleasure. It is these organs that bring in the inputs from the outside world, the stimuli from the outside world that help us to experience that pleasure. So far, so good? This is stuff you know, right? But I'm going through why we get to talk about Anicca Dukkha Anatta and why that's important, why we need to talk about it. So for as long as we find pleasure, we find this world pleasurable, we're going to keep coming back. And for as long as you find this world pleasurable, you're going to have to be born with these senses that bring the outside world into the inside world. What good is you being born without eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and no sense of touch? What is the point of you being born like that? Is there any point? I mean, you don't even like to be born blind. That's only one of the 5 senses. You've got all the other 4, but you're still not happy. You can see, but you're deaf. You okay with that? Anyone prepared? Ready? No. You've got another 4, but you're crying about the one that you lost. The reason for that is because we are so attached to experiencing sensuality through all our 5 senses that we're not ready to let go of 25% or 20% or anything like that. We just want the full pack, 100%. We want it all. And when you when you seek pleasure through all 5 senses, then you have to be born with these 5 senses. And the 5 senses don't come by themselves, they come in with this body of yours because they have to be supported. They need nutrition. You can't feed rice to your eyes. It has to go through your mouth. To digest that food, you need teeth. You need a tongue that can twist and turn the food inside your mouth and start the digestion, kick off the digestion process. You need your esophagus that the food takes your food down into your stomach and then starts digesting inside. You need your hydrochloric acids. Everything needs to kick off there. So you need this digestion system inside your body to enable you to see sights through your eyes. Ultimately, none of us asked for a body. We asked for sights, we asked for sounds, we asked for smell, we asked for taste, and we asked for touch. You asked for these 5 things. You ended up with eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and a body through which you can take in those 5 things that you asked for. Does that make sense? Anyone here asked for eyes? Or a nose? Or a tongue? Or a body? No. If you had, you wouldn't have asked for a pair of eyes which go blind. You wouldn't have asked for a pair of eyes which go through cataract. Or short-sightedness. Or far-sightedness. Myopia, dystopia. You wouldn't have asked for a pair of eyes that have to suffer any of these things. You would have asked for the perfect set of eyes which don't grow old, which don't have to suffer diseases. Right? If you had asked for eyes, that's how you asked for it. But that's not how you asked for it. You asked for sight. You were blessed with eyes. Blessed. Blessed? No, the word is cursed. Not blessed. You asked for sight, you were cursed with eyes. You asked for sound, you were cursed with? Gone? Yes. You asked for smell and you were cursed with a nose. You asked for taste and you were cursed with a tongue. And you asked for physical touch, sensation, and you were cursed with this body. They were born? No, you only grew older. You only grew old from the day you were born. So it's not a that way, it's always a this way. Not a curse? Bits of you. Not a curse? This is Asubha Bhavana. In future, so I'm still toying with this idea. In future, we'll pick one Sunday of the month and we'll start a meditation program. If you like that. So we'll maybe the last Sunday of the month. But only regulars must come along on that day, because otherwise it's not going to be of any point, because you wouldn't know what I'm talking about. I'll say anicca because I can't, during that session I can't go into detail of what anicca, dukkha, anatta is. You'll have to come prepared. You'll have to know your theory because you're going to come for the practical. That's going to be a practical class. So I'm still toying with that idea about the logistics of it and how we can make it happen and successful. Maybe that's curse. So that is Asubha Bhava now. Contemplating on how this body that we have been cursed with is in fact a curse. Not that it's disgusting. Which part of your body is disgusting? If so, why do you still keep it? Chop it off. Chuck it in the bin if you find it so disgusting. Because when you feel disgust, that is aversion, conflict. That is friction. There is no room for friction or conflict or aversion in Nibbana, because Nibbana is dveshakkhaya. Dveshakkhaya. There can't be friction there. There can't be aversion. There can't be affliction. So it's not disgust that you contemplate on. It's the uselessness. Because in the pursuit of happiness, there's not a single part of your body that actually brought you any happiness. Because happiness is nothing other than relief from vexation. And that's a solely mental process. There's not a strand of hair on your body or your head that brought you any happiness. But that didn't stop them from bringing you heaps of agony and pain and suffering. Do you enjoy washing your hair? Do you enjoy taking a shower? Do you? And then do it all the time. Don't get out of the shower. Just be in the shower. Why is it so difficult sometimes to get young children to take a shower? Because they don't find it fun. It's not fun. I get that. It's not fun. Why do you find it so difficult to get young children to brush their teeth? Because it's not fun. If it were fun, then you wouldn't have to teach them that it is fun, and then they go and do it. They would have found it fun naturally, but no, they don't. That's why you had to teach them to brush their teeth. That's why you had to teach them to wash their hair, wash their clothes, right? Hygiene, basic hygiene, right? All of these things. And it's not fun, but it leaves you no choice because you've been cursed. You've been cursed with a body that is constantly perspiring, that is constantly suffering fatigue. You're falling hungry, thirsty, falling ill, and so you always have to keep maintaining it. Always have to keep attending to it. You're all attendants. That is a job that you got from birth. What? Attendant. What are you attending to? The body. Always attending to it. You're always attending to it. Sometimes you feel so poorly you can't attend it to yourself, so you have to call another attendant who has to attend to you while they're attending to themselves. But we're all attendants. And we're also security guards. Who has to guard your body? You. No one likes to do this, but leaves us no choice. Right? So ultimately, this is what we've been cursed with, but we ask for sight, sound, smells, taste and touch. So in the meditation programs, I'll talk about this a little, not a lot, because I don't want to take, if we have 2.5 hours for the program, I'm not going to talk for 2 hours and give you half an hour to meditate, because that's pointless. We might talk for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, at most half an hour, and the rest of the time we'll be doing our meditation. And from time to time, if I see you nodding, then I might wake you up, because I have a duty to you. You mustn't leave me indebted. Right? But otherwise, it has to be it's guided meditation. You need time to reflect. Time which you don't find at home because you have lots of chores to attend to. So we'll make time here for that. Right? So this is what we've been cursed with. So then we have to find a way to redeem ourselves from this. It's because of pleasure we are here today. So if we really analyze what pleasure is, then we are able to understand, is it really worth me coming here for the purpose of pleasure? Think of it this way. And we talk about ashwada, right? Pleasure, the reason that we keep coming back. The Buddha says, if it weren't for pleasure, then beings would not go through transmigration. They wouldn't go through samsara if it's not for pleasure. It is because of pleasure that we go through this rebirth cycle. But now you know, when you go through rebirth, that is, jati takes place, there's no stopping jara, marna, shoka, parideva, dukkha, domanassa, all that following. They just keep coming after that. But you also know that you experience ashwada, pleasure. So we have to question ourselves. Let us take a little bit more time to study what pleasure is, just to make sure that it's worth coming here for it. In other words, what we are saying is, I'm prepared to go through suffering if pleasure is worth it. That's what we are saying. So we're not saying right off the bat that pleasure is a fake. We're not saying any of that. What we are saying is, let me just check if pleasure is worth coming here for it. Would you go to McDonald's for a burger if a burger was 5,000 rupees? Some of you, yeah, I still would. No, because you check the menu first. Is it worth it? Before you make any investment, you check, is it worth it, right? So you have to check if it's worth it. So of course we feel pleasure, but we also know that we have to go through the pain. If jati happens, then everything else follows. You can't stop it. So let's check if it's worth enjoying the pleasure for all this pain. That's the check that we're going to do right now. So we have to then ask the question, what is pleasure? Then we have to start thinking about examples of where we have experienced pleasure, because that's usually the best way to figure it out. What are some of the times we have experienced pleasure? So then examples come to mind. Some can be physical pleasure, others mental. Physical pleasure can be when you scratch a rash on your body. That's pleasurable. When you eat yourself, right? That's pleasurable. If you have a backache, you get someone to apply some ointment on your back, some Wintergino or something like that. Now you start feeling a little bit better. When you have a headache and someone gives you a head massage, how does that feel like? Heaven, right? You go, oh, that's so good. Someone gives you a head massage. So these are experiences of pleasure. And food. You're feeling hungry, you have a meal, and you feel pleasure. So then we start to analyze, okay, so I experience pleasure, it's for real, I experience it, but how did it come? Where did it come from? What's the source of this pleasure? And then you begin to understand that when you do your analysis, there was never any pleasure without pain beforehand. So this is the step-by-step process I'm talking to you about, why we come to anicca. Without this, there's no point just jump into anicca dukkha anatta. That's pointless. Because then it's just theory. It's just something to study and memorize. No one attains nibbana like that. If you go through this process, then you will begin to see the significance of why anicca is important in my life. Why I need to worry about dukkha and anatta. If you go through the process that I'm just outlining for you. Is it worth it? Is this pleasure worth me coming into this world when I have to go through so much suffering? It was the question we asked. Then we looked for examples of where we experience pleasure. Then we broke it down to physical pleasure and mental pleasure. We started with the physical pleasure, and then what we are finding out for ourselves is every time there was physical pleasure, there was always physical pain before that. If it hurts you to keep your fist clenched for a little while, when you relax your fingers, now it feels pleasurable. If you extend your arm once you've kept it clenched for some time, now it feels pleasurable. So you ask yourself, why are you extending your legs right now? Why are you shuffling yourself on your seat right now? Why is it pleasurable when you go and relieve yourself in the toilet? Why? Because it's relief from pain, relief from vexation. So you begin to understand that this pleasure only came from relief from pain beforehand. Was there ever any pleasure where there was no pain beforehand? This is the question we have to ask ourselves. If you don't have a rash, now I ask you to scratch yourself. That doesn't feel as pleasurable as when I have a rash on my body. When there's a rash, now I feel the itch. Now I scratch, now that's pleasurable. When you have a headache, you take a Panadol, now that's pleasurable. When you have a bad tooth, now they pull it off, and now it's pleasurable. When you're hungry, you eat, now it's pleasurable. If you're thirsty, you take a sip of water, now it's pleasurable. So what you're realizing for yourself is pleasure only came when there was relief from suffering beforehand. And if you were to draw a graph, pleasure on one axis, suffering on the other axis, you're going to see it's directly proportional. The more suffering there was, the more pain there was, the more pleasure you received as a process of being relieved from that pain. So then you can come to a conclusion that pleasure is nothing other than the relief from suffering, at least in the physical aspect, for now. There was never any pain without, or there was never any gain without the pain beforehand. There was no pleasure without suffering beforehand. And then you begin to wonder, what is the point of this pleasure? Because pleasure is nothing other than reduction of pain. The amount by which pain reduced is the amount of pleasure that you experienced. If you had 100 units of pain, and you go through some kind of process, some kind of easing yourself, relieving yourself, and that pain has dropped down to 50 units, or let's say 60 units, now the 40 that it was reduced by, that is what you experience as pleasure. So it's nothing other than relief from the pain that you feel as being pleasure, not something that came in from elsewhere. Then you begin to understand, well, what was the point of that? Because to experience pleasure, you have to go through pain first. You have to beat yourself, to pat yourself, to feel good. You have to get yourself a headache to cure yourself, to feel good. You have to be hungry to feed yourself, then to feel good. Does that not sound silly? That's the physical aspect. Then look at the mental aspect. Because ultimately it's the mind that keeps being reborn, and it's for the mind to take seat, it needs a body. So it's the mind that keeps taking us through samsara, not the body. Leave the body to a side. But that was just, we used examples to help us understand that pleasure is nothing other than relief from suffering. Then we look at the mind. What is the mind looking for? Of course, pleasure. So what is pleasure that the mind experiences? Then we start asking ourselves, what are some of the things that I find pleasurable? It will always be, of course, a sight, sound, smell, taste, and a touch. But not all sights are pleasurable. Are they? No, not all sounds or smells or tastes or touch are pleasurable. There are some things in this world that I find pleasurable. There are other things in this world that I don't find pleasurable. That's why we say beauty lies in the eye of the beholder. There are beautiful things in this world, and then there are ugly things in this world. Why is that the case? When you ask somebody else and they give you the complete opposite answer. What you say is beautiful, someone says, no, that's ugly. What you say is ugly, someone else says, that's really pretty. What are you talking about? Then you begin to understand that it's subjective, not objective. It depends on who's watching. It depends on who's calling the shots. So then you begin to understand that beauty is not something that is an aspect or an attribute or a characteristic of the outside world object. This flower is not beautiful, it's beautiful to you. That girl is not beautiful, she's just beautiful to you. So beauty is not something you see, it's something you think. Isn't that how you ask somebody? What do you think about this one? This shirt, what do you think? Or do they say, what do you see? This shirt, what do you see? Is it pretty? Is that how people talk? Or do they say, this shirt, what do you think? That's how they talk, right? What do you think? Do you think with your eyes? No, we think through our minds. So for the mind to be able to make a call whether something's beautiful or not, then ultimately beauty is something that happens in the mind. Not something that happens in the outside world. And remember, I think a couple of weeks ago we talked about what's the instrument we use to measure beauty? Measuring scale? Measuring tape? Thermometer? No. None of these instruments, there isn't an instrument out there that can be used to measure beauty. Conversely, beauty does not exist in the outside world. This is why you can't measure it. This is why an instrument has not been invented to measure it. But that doesn't stop the outside world being beautiful to us. Because we think it's beautiful. And for as long as we can think, we can say, this thing is beautiful, that thing's ugly. So ultimately then it's the mind that is seeing beauty. The outside world object is not beautiful or ugly. So beauty does not lie in the outside world. But why did you ask for a pair of eyes? To look at the mind? What did you want to look at? The outside world. To look at what? Beauty. But you are looking at the outside world. Really, that eyes you have should be fixed the other way around. Your optic nerve should be pointing outwards. And the pupil should be pointing inwards. Why? Because beauty is on the inside, not on the outside. Your nose should be fixed on your face in the reverse direction. Seriously, think about it. These senses we came into this world with to bring beauty from the outside world, pleasure from the outside world, but now we are beginning to see that pleasure does not exist in the outside world. Does that not then leave you with a question? What is the point of me having eyes? And I'm not talking about I need to get somewhere. I need to get to the toilet, I need to go and get myself lunch, I'm hungry, I need to go and get some sleep, so I need to walk to my bed. That's not what we're talking about, because it's the body that needs all that, not the mind. Your body never asked for a pair of eyes, because all the body had to do since a pair of eyes came along was suffer as a result of it. Your body has to digest the food to feed your eyes. Your body's circulatory system has to supply blood to it. Yes, sir. What is? Yes. So self-preservation in both ways. There's two kinds of self. We talk about this self, then no problem. You're using it for the right purpose. You have a vipaka kaya, this body that is subject to the vipakas of the karmas you've done in the past, to try and keep them at guard. Of course, use your eyes. But there's another self. This is the other self that we are really keen on talking about. Do you remember baby? Ah, yes. It's time to bring baby Natasha back. How old is she now? Can't remember. Baby Natasha's birthplace was Sri Anamatiniyara. She must be grown up now. That is the other self. Self-preservation. But for the preservation of self, we are looking for pleasure. Because pain cannot be used to preserve the self. Suffering cannot be... anyone came into this world to suffer? No, we all came for pleasure. The sole purpose of this self, this mind, giving rise to itself every time it passes away, is for pleasure. And to seek pleasure, the mind uses these slaves: eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and a body. The slaves, 5 slaves. When the mind wants pleasure, now it demands the slaves to go looking for pleasure. But where are they looking? The outside world. It's looking at the outside world, but we know now for a fact that pleasure does not exist in the outside world. So if that is why you have a pair of eyes, to find pleasure, to seek pleasure from the outside world, but now you know that pleasure does not exist in the outside world, but that doesn't stop you from having to maintain your eyes, then what is the point of having eyes? What is the point of having a pair of eyes? To those who came along to the meditation program on Wednesday, I gave them a karmasthana. Why did you open the shop? Kadeyariye. If you were there, you'll remember. Why did you open the shop? What is the shop we are talking about? This shop. Closed, now open. You know, we have an expression in Sinhala, right? Kadeyavano. To get someone to do errands for you. To get someone to do your dirty work. Right? Kadeyavano, we say that. It's an expression we have. So what the mind does is when it wants pleasure, it'll get these poor eyes to go to do its dirty work. I need pleasure, go and find me some. This is the mind's instruction to the eyes. So what the eye does now is open, looking for pleasure in the outside world. But we know for a fact that pleasure does not come from the outside world. But that doesn't stop the mind from opening the eyes and looking for pleasure, because the mind is still ignorant. For as long as ignorance prevails in this mind, it doesn't stop looking for pleasure from the outside world. But think about this for a moment. If you were the owner of a business, if you were the proprietor of a business, and I could convince you that you are not going to get any customers today, none whatsoever. No one's going to come and spend any money at your shop today, at your business today. And I could guarantee that. But you also know that if you open the shop, you're going to have to pay your electric bill, you're going to have to pay your gas bill, you're going to have to pay your water bills, you're going to have to pay your staff. Would you still open the shop? Yeah, I'm not talking about, image and, you have to show that you're open every day for business. I'm not talking about all that nonsense. Put that to aside. I'm talking in real terms. You're opening this shop for the sole purpose of earning an income. Right? But I'm guaranteeing to you that today you're not going to earn any money because you're not going to get any customers. But that doesn't stop you from having to maintain your business and run. The running expenses you'll still have to cough up. Would you still open the shop? No. Now we know pleasure does not exist in the outside world. But that doesn't stop you from opening your eyes. From the moment you open your eyes, now your eyes are subject to all the physical problems, damage that can happen from the outside world. For one, you have to keep blinking. Why? To keep these things wet, right? Lubricated and things like that. Because otherwise you're going to start going dry. Then you have to protect them. The wind can blow, bringing in little dust particles into your eyes. Maybe little insects into your eyes, right? So you have to protect them. And then you'll still go through old age. And ultimately death. I'm talking about death of the eye. And again, you still have to suffer pressure, eye pressure, right? Things like that. Sometimes if you get an eye infection, you can get cysts on your eyes. I'm sure we must have all had that, at least the adults. See, all these things are happening because, you open the shop. So you're going to have to suffer the consequences. You're going to have to suffer the pain, but it's not going to make you any money. Because you opened it looking for pleasure, but pleasure does not exist where you're looking. So what was the point of opening the shop? Kadayariyai? Why did you open the shop? Pointless. The same goes for all the other organs as well. Opening them up is not going to bring you what you're looking for because you're not going to get any customers who have any money to spend. You'll see sights, yes, but they're not going to have any money to spend. What's the money? Pleasure. They'll come walking into your shop. They'll look at your shop. Those pesky customers nobody likes. They'll come into the shop, they'll just look around, window shopping. How much is this, by the way? Why are you looking to buy? No, I'm just inquiring. If you don't have a shop yourself, well, at least you've been on the other end. So you should all know. Just walking, just for the sake of it. It's being a pain on them. On the shopkeepers. Nobody likes customers like that because it's just a waste of time. These customers, they keep coming into your eyes, sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, but none of them have any money to spend. So they can't make you any money, they can't make you any richer, they can't make you any wealthier, because pleasure does not exist out there. People don't have any money to spend, then why do you open the shop? This pleasure is nothing other than relief from vexation. So how do we connect this to anicca? And dukkha and anatta. The word anicca implies that this world is conditioned. When we talk about the world, there are two types of worlds, like the two types of selves we talked about a moment ago. There's the outside world and there's the inside world. Really, the world we need to be talking about is the inside world, much less than the outside world. Because we can talk about the outside world, right? Flowers, they wither away, they die. houses fall down, children die, husbands, wife, they all die. But everybody knows that. But that didn't stop people from attaching to them. And there could be some things that don't die or fade away in your lifetime. Like think about a really precious diamond. Right? It's probably going to outlive you by many hundreds of years, if not thousands. So if that's what you're attached to, and I say that arises and passes away, it's going to die one day, it's going to break one day, you're probably going to say, not in my lifetime. So it's not going to bring me any suffering. This is why it's pointless to try and find the problem in the outside world. Here's the problem, right? People try to find pleasure in the outside world. But when we say pleasures on the inside, they don't like that. Then they try to find the problem on the outside world. And they don't like that either. Both pleasure and the problem, which actually is pleasure, is in the inside world, not in the outside world. So we need to look at how our mind works, because we did agree that it's the mind that experiences pleasure, right? A moment ago, we said pleasure was two types, twofold. One's the physical, the other's the mental. So how do we experience mental pleasure? The things that we find pleasurable, we'll know through experience are the things that we like. Is there anything that brings you pleasure that you don't like? Can you name one thing? Name one thing that brings you pleasure, but you don't like it. Anything? No. You used to like your toys, so they brought you pleasure. Now they don't, except if they bring you any sentimental value. Some people feel like that. My toy, my grandmother gave me this because she had it when she was younger. Now, not because you want to play with it, because it has sentimental value. Still, it brings you pleasure. Not because it's a toy, but it's because it's an heirloom. It got passed down to you from your ancestors. That's why you find it pleasurable. So everything that we find pleasurable are things that we are attached to, that we like. Then there's a question. Do we attach ourselves to pleasurable things? Or are the things that we attach to, we find pleasurable? So these are questions that we need to find answers to. Let me repeat. Do we attach ourselves to things that are pleasurable? Or are the things that we attach to, we find pleasurable? Which one is it? Things we? You find pleasurable, then you attach, or you attach and then you find them pleasurable? That's right. First you have to attach. I'll give an example, right? Something you've never heard of, something you've never seen in your life. I'll mention it to you. Let's take a winnowing fan, for instance. Let's say you've never seen a winnowing fan ever in your life. You've not heard of one. You don't even know what it looks like. And I say, winnowing fan. Now, this Dhamma, this concept of a winnowing fan has already been seeded in you, because I have just said it. And I tell you, a winnowing fan, it's a really neat thing. You really should have a look at it. You haven't seen it yet. So you can't find it pleasurable because you don't know about it yet. But in your mind you have already attached. This is why you want to know about it. The moment I say the word winnowing fan, or my favorite example of the beetle leaf, if you've never seen a beetle leaf ever in your lives, you can't attach to something you don't know. Name one thing you are attached to that you don't know of. That question itself is nonsensical. Name one thing that you're attached to that you don't know about. You can never come up with an answer to that, right? Because the question itself doesn't make sense. So you are only attached to something that you know. You can't attach yourself to something you don't know. So if you don't know what a beetle leaf is, you've never seen one, you've never heard of one, you've you don't know it in any way, and I say beetle leaf, and I tell you, you know beetle leaves? They're really good. Now you don't know it, but are you not attached now? You're attached to the concept of a beetle leaf, because I have just planted that in your mind by saying the word, because this is me giving you a drushti. You already are cursed with the drushtiya that this world is pleasurable. Otherwise you wouldn't have come into this world. In your last birth, had you come to the complete understanding that the world is not pleasurable, would you and I have met? No. You and I wouldn't be here. At least you wouldn't, if you had come to that understanding. So the reason you're here is you find the world pleasurable. You're just going around looking for pleasurable things. That's what we're doing. We are going around looking for pleasurable things because our belief is that pleasure is there. So we go around looking for it. And we have 5 scanners with which we scan for it. These are your sense organs. You're scanning for pleasure, but you know that pleasure is out there. So to someone who already knows that there is pleasure in the outside world, all I have to tell you is there's something called a beetle leaf which is also pleasurable. Now your scanners turn on. This is your mind kicking off. What did I just hear? Beetle leaf. Go find it. So your scanners have just been switched on. Now you're attached to a beetle leaf. Yes or no? Do you understand what I just explained there? Now mentally you are attached to this concept of a beetle leaf. And as soon as you're attached, now inside your mind you're vexing. Because you only have the 5 sense organs, you can only be relieved of vexation through your 5 sense organs. If you had a 6th, you would use it as well. If you had 10, well, you'd use all 10 of them. And you would be vexed until you receive information about this outside world through all 10 of your sense organs, if you had 10. Believe you me, you're lucky you only have 5. You're lucky you only have 5. So the moment your mind is now vexed, now the mind is looking for a way to relieve from vexation, because nobody enjoys being vexed. This vexation is pelima, right? Asahane, other Sinhala words for that. Oppression, mental oppression. You feel a sense of despair, a sense of restlessness, frustration. You want to know, you want to find out. So the mind wants to know, the mind wants to find out. Now the mind has kicked off the engines. Let's go looking for it. And then the moment I show you a beetle leaf, now through your eyes, sight comes in, goes through your brain, into the mind, and says, this is what a beetle leaf looks like. And at that moment, the mind feels pleasure. Why? There's a big relief from the vexation. What's the noise the mind makes then? The mind has now just been relieved from vexation. I'm coming to anicca. This is what anicca, you'll understand how anicca connects with all this. Because this is important. We might start the meditation program next week, who knows? But you need to understand this before we get there. So at that moment, you're relieved from vexation, which brought you pleasure. It's the relief from vexation that brought you pleasure. Your mind was looking for something, and now it no longer has to look for it. Simple example being, if you ever have lost something in your lives, which we all have, I'm sure, more or less. Whenever you have lost something, now you go looking for it. Anyone here enjoyed looking for something you lost? No. That's not fun. What is the fun part? Finding it is the fun part. But it's not the object that brought you fun. It's no longer having to look for it. That's the fun part. Because what was the not so fun part? Looking for it. So if that's the not fun part, then what's the fun part? Stopping, looking for it. Nothing to do with the object. We didn't even mention the word, the object in that sentence anywhere. Looking for what you lost is sufferable, is vexatious. And then stopping the process of looking for it is the fun part. because nobody likes looking for something they have lost. But at the same moment, of course, you see what you have been looking for. But here's where ignorance digs your grave. Ignorance comes forward and says, you know that thing that you just saw? You just experienced pleasure, right? It's that object that brought you pleasure. That's the conclusion that ignorance brings you. Now, of course, as you will know, we are not talking about the outside world objects, right? Because the mind only knows about the outside world because of, how does the mind only know about the outside world? It's through Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana. Eyes bring a sight, take it to the brain sends a signal to the mind, and that signal is Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana. Whichever sense organ it comes through, ultimately it's Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana. Rupa is the form, it's ultimately the sense input. Right? So it could be a Rupa Rupa, Shabda Rupa, Gandha Rupa, Rasa Rupa, Poddabha Rupa. Then the Vedana, that is the feeling, that's the knowing that something's going on. You know, there's no other way you can know about anything in this world. You can't know about this betel leaf any way other than through Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana. There is not another way you can know about it. And even take away any one of them, you will not have a feeling of what this is. Because one, you need to have a Rupa Rupa, or Shabda Rupa, or Gandha Rupa, or Rasa Rupa, or Poddabha Rupa. And then Vedana. Your mind should know that it has just sensed something. Sanya is the label you give it. Right? Bulat Rupa, Bulat Shabda, Bulat Gandha, Bulat Rasa, Bulat Sparsha. The Sankara. Sankara is all the verbs that you associate with this. Such as eating. You can eat this. You can chew it. You can smell it. These are all verbs as well. You can look at it. Even that is a verb. It's not just the things you can do with this once you get it, but even looking at it, that is also a Sankara. Smelling it, that's also a Sankara. That's why some things you want to smell, but after you smell it, you won't want to do anything with it. Because wanting to smell it, the fact that you can smell it is also a Sankara. Some of this is quite subtle. For regular listeners, will not be too much trouble, but if you are new, then go back and listen to all sermons. That's all I can say, really. And then Vijnana is the ultimate decision you make about this betel leaf. So when I say betel leaf, all those things together give you a decision about this is what a betel leaf is. That is the final result, the end product of that production process. So this is how your mind knows about the betel leaf. The mind does not know color. It does not know physical touch. Does not know sound like that. It's only Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara through which the mind knows it. So what happened when I said betel leaf? The mind started looking for it. So really the mind is looking for Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana because that's all it knows. There's no other way the mind knows about the outside world. And it's waiting for that Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana to come. It's waiting. It's like waiting for a visitor. Do you like waiting for your visitors or do you like receiving them? What do you like? Receiving them, not waiting for them. That's not fun. That's why you ring them up. Hey, you're late. What's keeping you? Because if that was fun, you wouldn't ring them up. Because the longer they take, the better it is. But no, you ring them up to ask, hey, would you hurry up? We are waiting for you to start the party. But when your visitor finally knocks on the door and you open it and you see their face, you think, excellent. Now I'm so happy. Why? Well, there's the true answer and there's the answer that ignorance gives you. The true answer is you no longer have to wait for their arrival. But the answer that ignorance gives you is it's them that brought you pleasure. So, see, that's the trap you just fell into. Because if it's the visitor that brought you pleasure, a visitor to you is sight, sound, smell, taste, touch. To receive that, of course, you need eyes, ears, nose, tongue and touch. Therefore, to be born again, for sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, you will need eyes, ears, nose, tongue and body. Do you see how you have ended up with eyes, ears, nose, tongue and a body? Because always your view was, your belief was that pleasure came from the outside world. That's where it went wrong every single time. So what is anicca then? This vexatious nature, not of the outside world, leave the outside world alone, it's the inside world. This inside world is your mind, your thought series, arising and passing away, arising and passing away, constantly arising and passing away at many hundreds and billions of thousands of times a second. With each arising, there's Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana taking seat in that thought, and then with every passing away, it's the same Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana that has just passed away. Arising and passing away happens, but attachment remains for as long as ignorance remains. For as long as ignorance and attachment remains, what you like has just passed away. Do you like that? Who here likes their mother passing away? You don't like it, therefore you cry, or you will have cried, or you will be crying. Not because your mother died, but because you are attached. That's why. Which Arahant ever cried because their mother passed away? No one does. See, it's not because Udavim Vayim, this arising and passing away, that's not the cause for suffering. Attachment is the cause of suffering. Remove attachment, arises, passes away, no problem. Keep attachment, doesn't arise, problem. Arises, problem. Passed away, problem. Arise, didn't pass away, problem. All of these are problems. For as long as attachment remains. So you see, you have to look at the inside world. Vexatious because it arises and passes away. You vex because you attach. You must understand the difference between these two. Vexatious, which is the adjective. Pelena sulu. Not pelena. Pelena sulu. It's not in flames but flammable. That is the adjective. Right? So vexatious because it arises and passes away. What? Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana arises and passes away. That is why it's vexatious. But that is not why you vex. Vexing is because of attachment. This arising passes away, passing away happens in a mind that is attached. That is the problem. So anicca is understanding that this mind is vexatious. Or this inside world is vexatious. This Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana goes through arising and passing away. Udayangam Attangam. Arising and passing away. That is the understanding of anicca. Then dukkha. For as long as you're vexed about something, it's not a state of mind that anybody likes to be in. Therefore, we make every effort to relieve ourselves of vexation. To really take a really simple example. Someone says, hey, cake, would you like some? Or someone gives you this idea. You know, you watch TV, on the TV there's a TV, some kind of, say, cookery lesson on TV. They're baking cakes. Now you get this idea, after you watch it, that looks yummy. So I need to bake myself a cake. Now you're vexing. There's only one way you can relieve yourself of that vexation, and that is by acquiring this. You have to acquire what you desire. That's the only way you can relieve yourself of vexation. So now you have to find a way to be able to have that cake. To have the cake, you have to make the cake. Or you have to go buy the cake. Or you have to get somebody else to make it for you. These are all sankhara. No one likes making a cake. I can prove it to you, because if you did, then why don't you all start making cakes from today? Non-stop. Let's make that your job, baking cakes. Who likes that? No, because if it's something that you like, really like to do, then you should be able to do it non-stop. And you shouldn't really ask for payment for that either, because it's for fun. No one's like that. So nobody really likes switching on the oven, mixing the dough, right? Putting it in the oven, waiting, keeping time, pulling it out, checking if it's been baked properly, putting it back in, right? Keeping watch. Nobody likes any of this stuff. But those sankhara, you obviously have to do. That's an exertion of mind, thought and body. You have to do it, no choice. So that sankhara dukkha, you have to experience to relieve yourself of vexation. To relieve yourself of the problem of vexation, you have, and that the solution has to come through sankhara. But that sankhara is also dukkha. And then no matter whatever sankhara you do,
You're only going through this process to give rise to Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara in your mind. But it always arises and passes away. And whenever it passes away, because you're still attached to it, now what happens? Viparinama. Viparinama dukkha. What if we could make it arise and stick it there and freeze it? Would you anyone fancy that? Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana arises and then we freeze it. It does not pass away. Put aside the fact that it's not possible. What if it were possible? Would that be okay? No, that's still not okay. Because the reason you are even making the cake is for pleasure. You can't experience pleasure without the suffering of passing away. Because it's after you give rise to it again, now you are relieved from vexation. Because so arising and passing away has to happen. In other words, you have to go through pain to achieve the gain. No pain, no gain. So if you like the gain, you have to welcome with open arms and embrace the pain. If one day you say, I don't want any more pain, then you must agree to no more gain as well. If you say, no more pain in my life, I don't want it, then you have to say, no more gain either. No suffering. You don't want suffering? You mustn't want pleasure either. You can't not have one and only have the other. It doesn't work like that because it's logically not possible. What you're asking for is not possible. But nobody likes the pain. Everybody likes the gain. Everybody likes the pleasure. But just like if there's no pain, there's no gain, for there to be gain, there has to be pain. So if you're asking for the pleasure, then you have to welcome the pain as well. But nobody likes it. But it comes. So that is the dukkha part. And even while you have it, you are going through constantly this state of mind where you're suffering because you're going, you have this uncertainty. Will I be able to make it? Will it go right? Will it work to plan? And then after you've made it, will I be able to keep it? Will I still be able to enjoy it? Right? And then when it's passing away, can I stop it? So dukkha is there throughout this process. Sankhara dukkha while you're giving rise to it, viparinama dukkha as it's passing away, dukkha throughout the process. So really, at the moment you attach, there is no escape. I love that expression in Sinhala. Koti walige. As soon as you grab hold of it, now there is no escape. Because the moment you let go, the beast is going to bite you. It's going to destroy you. Once you attach, that's it. There is no escape. If you're detaching yourself, then you have to know, you have to do it through understanding. You have to do it through wisdom. Then the detachment happens. You don't have to detach deliberately, it just happens. And then finally, anatta. If you have been seeking happiness, and everything you've been doing so far to seek happiness have been things that only brought you pain, is that process, is going through that process useful? Is it meaningful? Essence-full? No. Therefore useless, meaningless, essenceless. Anicca, dukkha, anatta. Once you come to that conclusion, anatta, then your mind will agree that this is asubha. Subha is worthwhile going through samsara for the purpose of achieving it. Asubha is not worthwhile. So what was the original question that we had? Coming back to samsara, going through all this pain, but we still experience pleasure, is it worth it? That is the question we asked ourselves. Now we've gone through anicca, dukkha and anatta. Then we can come to the conclusion. We went through this entire process trying to find happiness, trying to find pleasure, but pleasure does not exist anywhere in this process, and going through the process you can't find pleasure either. And any time you did experience pleasure, that was only from relief in vexation. Relief, in other words, reduction of the pain. Not happiness, reduction of pain, reduction of suffering. That was what pleasure was. So really it was just a fallacy. It was just a gimmick. It was a lie. It was a falsehood. Once you understand that, then you come to the conclusion, it's not worth it. And when it's no longer worth it, then you have lost any reason to keep coming back. And that stops bhava, and that stops jati. And as soon as jati stops, no more downhill. No more jara, no more marana, no more vyadi, none of that. So, problem fixed. Not problem solved, problem fixed. The entire problem has been uprooted. The entire problem has been uprooted. You no longer have to treat the problem. That is why Nibbana is the eternal bliss. Not bliss for now and bliss for tomorrow, bliss for next week. This is eternal bliss. Never again will you have to solve the problem because there is no problem to solve. That's why. This is why this is the ultimate bliss. Jesus Christ does not know this. Do you not feel sorry for him? Allah does not know this. Do you not feel sorry for him? Lord Shiva does not know this. Do you not feel sorry for him? The great Mara does not know this. Do you not feel sorry for him? Any being who has no understanding of this, really, I just feel sorry for them. Because for as long as they have no understanding of this, no comprehension of this, everything that they do, every time they do it, is a solution to a problem which is a bigger problem than the one they try to solve. It's jumping out of one trap to fall into an even bigger trap. Anto jata, bahi jata, jatae jatito jata. It's tied up on the inside, tied up on the outside, entwined throughout. Oh Gautama, great Gautama, how do we all find an answer to this problem? This is the process. Anicca, dukkha, anatta. And that is why this is the crux of Buddhist teaching. Once anicca, dukkha, anatta has sedimented in your mind, once it has taken seed, there is nothing in this world that can fool you from there on. From that point forward, no one in this world can give you no one in this world can fool you with false gimmicks. Because no matter what people say, you will know this world is not pleasurable. There is nothing pleasurable that can be found in the outside world. Pleasure is nothing other than relief from vexation, and that's an wholly internal process. I am no longer interested in that. Therefore, there is no point in me being here. And that's a really powerful statement. It's a really powerful sentiment if you are able to experience that. When one day you will feel, what is the point of having a pair of eyes? What is the point of me being able to see? What is the point of having ears? What is the point of me being able to hear? What is the point of me having a nose or a tongue or this body when there is nothing but pain that I experience, nothing but suffering that I have to experience by my mere existence? That day, your existence will solely be for the purpose of helping other people come to the same understanding. And that is the day you become an arahant. And then, you're just like an oil lamp, waiting to be blown out. As soon as the oil runs out, or the wick burns out, or a wind comes and blows you out, that is the end. Where did the fire go to? Nowhere. Nibbanti dira yatha yampadipo. So that should be your goal. That should be where you want to get to, if you have understood the purpose of your human life. The one thing none of us have ever been able to achieve in this infinitely long journey in samsara. That is where I want to get to. That is where all the monks at this monastery want to get to, and nowhere else. Some people keep still inviting us, can you come to Singapore, can you come to Canada, this place, that place. I said yes, I will, on this condition. promise me that as I step across the border, I will become an arahant. Then I will come. Or, when I get there, you give me that. My arahanthood. If so, I will come. Otherwise, don't expect it to happen. Not until I have completed what I am here to do. I have no interest in going anywhere. Thank you very much. Because I did not ordain for anybody else. I must admit, I ordained for my own salvation. I am happy to help others. But I have my limits. Because I am not prepared to sacrifice this very little time that I have for myself, not even knowing when my batteries are going to run out. I'm not prepared to gamble this precious human life that I have for anything. Once I've done my job, then let's go traveling. Then we'll go traveling. Not until then. Oh no. So if you want, you can come here, and then I'll help you all as much as I possibly can. But this is as far as I'm prepared to go. Is that wrong? Thank you. I'll tell them you said so. Okay. So, we'll conclude the sermon there then. And before we do so, let us take a moment to chant the Ari Maitriya. In terms of next week, you'll be informed. But, you have nothing to do anyway. As in, there's no preparation as such you have to do, right? You have to. You are listening to the other sermons anyway, right? The old sermons, previous ones. So there's really nothing you need to do extra. All you need to do is just turn up. And if we are doing the meditation program, then we'll have the whole arranged as appropriate. So you don't have to do anything. We just have to prepare ourselves, not you. So you don't need any forewarning as such. Maybe we'll start it off from next month. Let's do it like that. We'll start it off from next month, just to give people some time to accustom themselves to that, instead of doing it just off the bat. But please, if you do invite others to come along, I insist, I can't emphasize this enough, please make sure that they have listened to the previous sermons. Please do not bring them here otherwise, because then they will curse you, not me. If they come and shout and point their finger at me, Swaminathan, what are you doing? I don't understand any of this. I'll say, go and speak to whoever brought you here and ask them, because this is not the place to explain to you what Anicca Dukkha Anatta is. So please don't do that to them, because that would be unfair on them. Right? So it's okay to bring people along, but they must have listened to the sermons, at least 6 months worth. So the best thing to do is really, with New Year and that coming along as well, if you go visiting your friends, relations, neighbors, why don't you give them the gift of Dhamma, which is the gift that excels all gifts. It's better than a tiara cake. You can't beat that. The gift of Dhamma. Give them the gift of Dhamma. If they want to listen to it, they listen to it. If not, well, you haven't lost anything really. You have still given them the gift. You have still earned your merit. One day, someone's going to come and ask them, what's that CD there? Some sermon someone gave me. Would you mind if I listen to it? Yeah, sure, just take it, I don't want it. So someone else takes it. Maybe their great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandson. Right? They take it, listen to it. That's what I've been looking for. Now you've just helped another being get on the path to Nibbana. When the student is ready, the teacher appears. You can't force anybody onto this path. It doesn't work like that. Just think about how many people you tried to bring here, and they said, no, we are too busy. because it doesn't work like that. But don't despair about that. Don't be frustrated about that. When the time is ready, they'll come. Just let them come when they want to. Just inform them. They'll come when they want to. Don't force anybody to come here. Because the Dhamma doesn't work like that. You can't be force-fed the Dhamma. You can't be brainwashed. Although some people say that's what we do. Some people say that's what we do. We brainwash you. Do you feel brainwashed? Okay. So we'll start it off from next month then. Yeah, I'll inform you in future sermons. But we'll do it. Don't worry, we'll do it. Okay? Because I know you want to. And it will be interesting. I've never done something like that. Do you, just give me a show of hands, when you contemplate on the Dhamma, when you think about the Dhamma, do you do it in English or Sinhala? For those of you who contemplate in Sinhala, can you give me a show of hands? Okay, those of you who contemplate in English. So as in you reflect on the Dhamma in English. So when I say anicca dukkha anatta, you are thinking it in English, right? Okay, so this is this, that and this, right? Vexatious. Okay. Mixed. Okay. Mixed, right. Bit of both. All right, okay. So that's fine then. That's fine. Okay. So how do you choose which one to, whether it's in English or Sinhala? Does it depend on which language the sermon is being delivered in? Yeah? All right. Okay. Okay. Depending on the words, right? Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Okay. Okay. We'll do it. We'll prepare ourselves and do it properly. Okay? So that gives you enough time to go back and listen to the old sermons as well. So absolutely do it, otherwise there's no point in turning up on the Sunday. So for now, let's pencil in tentatively the last Sunday of next month. But I will inform you in due course whether that is how we do it. Because the other thing is we need to think about how it affects our online listeners. What experience they might have as a result of that, because we have to be supportive and thoughtful about them as well. It is for their benefit, it is on their behalf we started doing these sermons originally, so we mustn't forget our roots. Right? We mustn't be ungrateful. It is because of them you're here today. So we mustn't forget them. Lots of them out there who organizes these sermons, right? From far away countries, and they have no chance but of coming along. But nevertheless, they invite you. They send out invites and alerts, right? Tell you where the sermons are, right from when we started. So we mustn't forget them. But we'll think of something creative. I'm sure collectively we can come up with something. Okay, right. Is it in Sinhala today? Sinhala? Okay.
Mamada siyalu loka siyalu satmayo sansara dahayen midatva sansara rogayen midatva sansara ginnen midatva sansara anduren midatva Nibbana parama sukhayen sukhita taravetva Nibbana parama sukhayen sukhita taravetva Nibbana parama sukhayen sukhita taravetva Mamada siyalu loka siyalu satmayo raga bandhanayen midatva dvesha bandhanayen midatva moha bandhanayen midatva මාර බන්ධනයෙන් මිදෙත්වා නිබ්බාන පරම සුඛයෙන් සුඛිතතර වෙත්වා නිබ්බාන පරම සුඛයෙන් සුඛිතතර වෙත්වා නිබ්බාන පරම සුඛයෙන් සුඛිතතර වෙත්වා මමද සියලු ලෝක සියලු සත්වයෝ ජාති ගින්නෙන් මිදෙත්වා ජරා ගින්නෙන් මිදෙත්වා ව්‍යාධි ගින්නෙන් මිදෙත්වා මරණ ගින්නෙන් මිදෙත්වා නිබ්බාන පරම සුඛයෙන් සුඛිතතර වෙත්වා නිබ්බාන පරම සුඛයෙන් සුඛිතතර වෙත්වා නිබ්බාන පරම සුඛයෙන් සුඛිතතර වෙත්වා මමද සියලු ලෝක සියලු සත්වයෝ ශෝක ගින්නෙන් මිදෙත්වා පරිදේවයෙන් මිදෙත්වා දුක්ඛ ගින්නෙන් මිදෙත්වා දෝමනස්සයෙන් මිදෙත්වා උපායාසයෙන් මිදෙත්වා යම් පිච්ඡං ලබති තම්පි දුක්ඛයෙන් මිදෙත්වා සංකිත්තේන පංචෝපාදානස්කන්ධයෙන් මිදෙත්වා නිබ්බාන පරම සුඛයෙන් සුඛිතතර වෙත්වා නිබ්බාන පරම සුඛයෙන් සුඛිතතර වෙත්වා නිබ්බාන පරම සුඛයෙන් සුඛිතතර වෙත්වා කාම ලෝක අනාතයි එයින් මිදෙත්වා රූප ලෝක අනාතයි එයින් මිදෙත්වා අරූප ලෝක අනාතයි එයින් මිදෙත්වා සියලු ලෝක අනාතයි එයින් මිදෙත්වා අතහැරීම නාතයි අතහැරීම වෙත්වා නොඇල්ම නාතයි නොඇල්ම වෙත්වා මිදීම නාතයි මිදීම වෙත්වා නිවනම නාතයි නිවනම 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 වෙත්වා Okay. Can we nominate Miss Allepola to take the names of those who might be interested in
meditation programs? Yeah? Okay. So if you can just let her know, only so that we can have an idea of numbers. And don't feel that you all have to come to the first session, because if you need more time to prepare yourselves in terms of listening to the sermons, that's okay. We are not in competition with anybody here. That's the first lesson. We're only in competition against ourselves, against Raga, Dvesha, Moha, not with anybody else. Okay? So just because some person's not here, don't feel like, oh, what are they going to think of me? Other people are going to think that I haven't understood the Dhamma. Oh dear. That's very foolish. Don't think like that. Then you haven't taken a modicum of this Dhamma, if that's how you feel. And also, if you feel that somebody else is not here because they haven't got an understanding of the Dhamma, again, you shouldn't really be here. That's very childish. So let's take names, just so that we have an idea of numbers, and then we'll see where it goes. Okay, so let's take a moment then to transfer the merits that we have all acquired through the course of this sermon, and we will then conclude the sermon. First and foremost, let us once again remind ourselves that it is because of the supremely enlightened Gautama, Lord Buddha, that we have the gift of Dhamma today. It is because he sacrificed himself over many countless births in samsara for the liberation and salvation of all sentient beings that we have his teaching today, his doctrine today. Let us also take a moment to remind ourselves of the Bhikkhu, Bhikkhunis, Upasaka, Upasikas who passed on the gift of Dhamma from generation to generation down all the way through to us. It is thanks to them that today we have the Tripitaka protected and preserved in pristine form, through which we can understand, comprehend the Dhamma and attain this bliss of Nibbana. So may all the merits that we have all acquired through the course of this sermon be transferred to them as well. If among them there are any those who have been born today in the woeful planes, may through the power of these merits they will redeem themselves from those woeful planes and be born in the blissful planes, and may through the power of these merits they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us also take a moment to transfer merits to all members of the Mahasangha, including the Mahanayakas, the Anunayakas, who are providing a relentless service, an indispensable service to protecting the Sambuddha Shasana. It is thanks to them that today you and I have the opportunity to meet like this, to discuss the Dhamma, and to attain the bliss of Nibbana. So may they be able to rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today, as well as every man and woman, wherever they may be, who have dedicated their lives to practicing the path, as well as setting aside some of that time to preaching and disseminating the Dhamma for the liberation of all sentient beings. May they all also be able to rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today. May through the power of these merits they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us also take a moment to transfer merits to the Devas, Brahmas, spirits, demons, and the dead, our ancestors who might have predeceased us, anyone and everyone who might have helped us, supported us, assisted us in this infinitely long journey in samsara, in any way, shape or form. May they all be able to rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today. If any among them have today been born in the woeful planes, may through the power of these merits they redeem themselves from those woeful planes and be born in the blissful planes, and may through the power of these merits they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us also take a moment to transfer merits to all those who have helped make this event a success. Primarily our Guru Swamin Mahanse, as well as all the resident monks at this monastery, as well as the Anagarikas who have gone through great lengths and great effort to arrange this hall for your listening pleasure, as well as those who have invited you to be here today, or perhaps by providing you with transport, or maybe by ushering you to a seat, or maybe just by offering you a glass of water. Whatever shape or form they might have helped you, either by coming in contact with you physically or by perhaps communicating with you, including our listeners worldwide, wherever they may be, if anyone and everyone who might have helped, supported, assisted in making this event a possibility, may they all be able to rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today. Let us also take a moment to transfer merits to those members of your family who are alive and among you today, mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, uncles, aunts, nephews, nieces, so on and so forth, those who have husbands, wives, and so on, and children as well, those who have relieved you of your domestic duties to be here today. It is thanks to them that today you have the freedom to be here today. May they all rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today, as well as your employees, your employers, and those of your co-workers, as well as your subordinates who might have taken on your duties and responsibilities, such that you have been relieved today of those duties and responsibilities, and as a result of which you are able to come along, listen to these sermons, and attain the bliss of Nibbana. So may they all be able to rejoice in these merits we have all acquired today. Taking a moment also to transfer merits to the chief incumbent monk of the Sri Ayamatini Arame, as well as all the other resident monks in that monastery, who have from the beginning always been supportive of this venture, and also today, to this day, provide you with parking spaces and so on and so forth, making your experience of coming along to these sermons that much more enjoyable, that much more easy. May they all be able to rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today. May through the power of these merits they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the Noble Eightfold Path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us also take a moment to transfer merits to all the members of the armed forces as well as the police force who fought a 30-year-long war in Sri Lanka. It is thanks to them that today we have a motherland in which we can live in peace and harmony despite our differences between us. May they all be able to rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today, as well as friend and foe who might have lost their lives in the 30-year-long war. Wherever they may be, if any of them are today seeking merits, may they all be able to rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today. Let us also take a moment to transfer merits to those men and women who might have lost their lives in natural disasters such as the tsunamis, earthquakes, and so on and so forth, not just in Sri Lanka but also in other countries. They may today be your friends, maybe acquaintances or family, but perhaps some of them are not so. But do not forget that in this infinitely long journey in samsara, there is no one who has not been a mother to you, there is no one who has not been a father to you. So, bearing that in mind, may they all be able to rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today. May through the power of these merits, if any of them have been born in the woeful planes, they be able to redeem themselves and be born in the blissful planes. May through the power of these merits, they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the Noble Eightfold Path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us also take a moment to transfer merits to all those men and women who are today leading this country on our behalf, protecting this country on our behalf, and developing this country on our behalf. It is, if not for them, today you and I will have to be leading this country, developing this country, and protecting and preserving this country. May they all be able to rejoice in these merits that we have all acquired today. It is thanks to them that today you and I have the freedom of time and the luxury of time to be here to practice the path and attain the bliss of Nibbana. So may they all be able to rejoice in these merits. May through the power of these merits they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the Noble Eightfold Path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And finally, may through the power of all the merits that we have all acquired today, from the start of this day, throughout this sermon, all the way right up until this moment, either in preparing to come along to this sermon or perhaps by passing messages on to others so that they are able to make use of this opportunity, all those merits that you have all acquired today, or perhaps by supporting in disseminating this sermon over the internet for the listening ease of others around the world, or perhaps by transcribing these sermons so that they are able to be accessed by people who may be hard of hearing. May they all be able to rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today. Also, may through the course of all the merits that we have all acquired today, in also making offerings to the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha, as well as listen to this sermon, preaching this sermon, may through the power of all those merits that we have all acquired today, we be able to witness the advent of many hundreds of thousands of arahants in this blessed land, in our very lives itself. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And finally, may through the course of all the merits that we have all acquired today, you and I and all of us be able to become one of those Arahatun Nuhanses, one of those Arahat Mehini Nuhanses, in this very birth itself and in the era of the Gautama Supreme Buddha itself. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. The members of the Mahasangha will now transfer their blessings to you. Raga ginneng midetva, Dvesha ginneng midetva, Moha ginneng midetva, Nibbana parama sukhayen sukhita taravetva, Nibbana parama sukhayen sukhita taravetva, Mamada සියලු ලෝක සියලු සත්වයෝ නිබ්බාන පරම සුඛයෙන් සුඛිතතර වෙත්වා නිබ්බාන පරම සුඛයෙන් සුඛිතතර වෙත්වා නිබ්බාන පරම සුඛයෙන් සුඛිතතර වෙත්වා. තුනුරුවන්ගේ සුවිසි අනන්ත මහා ගුණ වලින් සිල් ලෝක සිල් සත්වයෝම නිබ්බාන පරම සුඛයෙන් සුඛිතතර වෙත්වා. May I and all beings in all worlds be freed from the fires of desire. May I and all beings in all worlds be freed from the fires of aversion. May I and all beings in all worlds be freed from the fires of delusion. May I and all beings in all worlds attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. May the noble triple gem be with you all forever. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.